Keith and Coley, they're ready to go. Talking about aliens, UFOs, and the unknown. The talk show is buzzing, the excitement grows. Exploring the mysteries that the universe holds. Get ready to dive into the world of the paranormal. Welcome to the Coley and Marky Show, where we uncover the secrets that nobody knows. From aliens to UFOs, we're ready to explore. Strap in and get ready for a wild ride for sure. Fearless and bold, not afraid to ask. Questions that challenge all we think we grasp. Every episode brings a new cast to uncover the truth beneath the mask. Believe in the unbelievable. Open your mind. Welcome to the Coley and Marky Show, where we uncover the secrets that nobody knows. From aliens to UFOs, we're ready to explore. Strap in and get ready for a wild ride for sure. Welcome to the Coley and Marky Show, where we uncover the secrets that nobody knows. From aliens to UFOs, we're ready to explore. Strap in and get ready for a wild ride for sure. Welcome to the Coley and Marky Show, where we uncover the secrets that nobody knows. From aliens to UFOs, we're ready to explore. Strap in and get ready for a wild ride for sure.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Coley and Marquis Show, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting ready to rock and roll tonight. I'm really excited. I'm glad to have everybody here. What was that? Got some YouTube videos playing in the background, y'all. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, like I said, welcome to the Coley and Marquis Show, and it's honestly a miracle we made it this far. To be totally honest with you, we almost didn't make it. This was a crazy, crazy day. Personally, I know that you all know that I have quite a crazy, crazy life. So, we're doing this this is a passion project. So I want to say, this is a great honor to be with you guys. And give me I think there's some audio playing in the background. What is that? Hold on, guys. Sorry. I got some weird audio playing in the background. I'm so sorry. What is that? Chat, do you guys hear that? That's not me. I don't know who that is. Anyway, let's continue this. So like I said, welcome to the Coley and Marquis Show. So we are on the Helix Rock Radio Live .live, which is the Helix Rock Radio website. We are also on Dimensional Reality Podcast on YouTube. We are on the guys. This is so wild. I'm not kidding. I hear music playing in the background. I have no idea where it's coming from. So I hope you guys don't hear that. What is that? That's so weird. But yeah, so Coley will be with us very soon, so just hang tight, everybody. We're also live on Twitch, of course, at the Coley and Marquis Show, so hang tight for that. If you're on Twitch, thank you for being here, guys. Tonight, we have with us Alan Steinfeld, who is a true pioneer in the exploration of consciousness. Today, we're going to talk about UFOs, we're going to talk about aliens, we're going to talk about all that stuff, so it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited to talk to Alan. I have not had a chance to talk to Alan before, by the way, so this will be an interesting conversation, first conversation for me. I actually lost Alan. We will have him back here soon. But either way, and I want to say what's up to the chat. So let's go ahead and give some shout outs right now. So Polly, of course, is always in the chat. What's up, Polly. Welcome to the chat, fam. Good to see you in the chat. Thank you for being a great supporter. We have Chiro Sounds. Chiro, welcome to the chat, Chiro. Appreciate you. You know we love you. You know we love you. Bryson, my guy, Bryson in the chat. Guys, I hope you hear that. Listen, I am not playing Lil Jon in the background. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. But Lil Jon is playing in my ear. I don't listen to Lil Jon. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, what's up to you, Bushi Bato? What's up, Bushi Bato? Love the name. It's unique. It's interesting. It's different. We'll go with different. And all you lurkers out there, I appreciate you too, even though some of y'all are hate lurkers. Y'all all showing us love because all that lurking does is bolster up our YouTube algorithm, baby. So we're out here making it with the YouTube algorithm, even with the haters in the background. And thank you, Polly, for letting me know. I guess I'm just going to be listening to hip hop in the background. I don't even care, to be totally honest. It'll keep things nice and vibing. If you guys see that my eyes are all puffy, it's an allergy day. I'm tired, but I'm here with my caffeine ready to rock and roll, baby. Let's do this. So, guys, there's been a lot of news lately, mostly surrounded around the Lou Elizondo book and some of the things that have leaked. People are slowly talking about little pieces here and there. Bryce Sable and Ross Coldheart talked today on the Need to Know podcast about a little bit about the book because I guess he's going to be on Ross's show next week, actually. So stay tuned for that. And now we're going to bring on Alan with us to talk about this and many other things. So here we go. Alan.
Yeah, great. We are up
No
to
audio,
date on
Alan.
this. You hear me? Can you hear me?
There we go. I can hear you.
Okay. We are. Are you hearing
hear you now.
feedback? Are you hearing a little
Yes,
feedback there? Let me just put some headphones on and maybe
There is
that
some
will-
feedback. There's a little bit of feedback, yeah.
I was hearing it, my own feedback back there. Let me just switch this to audio here, and then I think that should take care of the feedback. Okay. How's that? Better?
There we go. Let's see.
How's that? Better?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Or is that? I hear you.
So the
I hear
audio
you.
cut off completely. Where is that feedback coming from?
Anyway,
Maybe
I
it's-
hear feedback.
Give
Let
me
me see if let me just change the whole audio settings here
second.
on these settings.
Well, now, Alan, can you speak
Okay,
to me,
okay.
please?
All right, I'm talking to you.
Two. 1 second. It would be that we have audio issues first thing starting off. It's got to be.
Okay.
It's got to be audio issues.
Is that
Listen.
better?
We'll get this figured out. Just hang tight.
Okay, is that
Now,
better?
can you guys hear us?
I hear you. You hear me?
I can hear you, Alan.
Okay.
Let's see if I
Okay.
got you on audio.
All right.
My audio is good. I can hear. Chat, let me know if you can hear me, chat.
I hear you.
Alan.
But I hear you. Yeah, you hear me? I definitely hear you. You hear me? You don't hear me?
Here. So,
Do you,
Alan.
do you, yeah, I hear you.
Let me see.
I hear you.
Excuse me.
I
Let's see
do
what we
hear
got
you, my
here.
friend. Let me just go to sound
My
preferences.
headphones are on.
Okay.
Everything looks good
Let me
on
try.
my end.
Let me try that. Do
Checking
you hear
the
me
audio
now?
All over the place. Defaults.
Okay, you hear me now, right? You hear me now?
Defaults.
You hear me?
I wonder if it's me.
No.
Alan, I cannot hear you, sir.
You cannot hear me? You cannot hear me.
You hear both of us. So then maybe it is me. Hold on.
I am sorry. I
One
hear
moment, guys. I'm gonna have to
you.
give me 1 sec while I fix this issue. Give me 1 sec. Hang tight. Don't give up on us.
Okay,
I
okay.
won't give up on us.
Okay, test.
All right,
test,
hold on, guys.
test.
We'll get this figured out. So,
Output.
chat, you can hear both of us. I am only hearing testing my speakers on StreamYard, so that's good.
Okay.
There we go. I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. Great. Okay.
And
Okay.
it's
Good.
actually it's perfect, by the way. No feedback whatsoever. No feedback.
Great. Okay. What were you saying now that we're on the same page?
Now that we've got now that we're on the same page, we got all that stuff, all the bugs figured out. Listen, almost every stream, a lot of people have issues with tech stuff. No worries, Alan. It could be both of us, to be totally honest. It could just be me, to be able to. So here we go. So Alan, just wanted to give you. I know if everybody heard the intro with your intro, we are going to talk a little bit about your book because you have a new book out. Well, so let's talk about first you and what your interest is in the UFO phenomena. Specifically, what do you talk about with your work? And start with that.
All right, great. I do want to say I didn't get a chance to see the Ross Coulter, Bryce Grable show yet about the book, but I'm interested in everything Lou Elizondo has to say and more. But my work goes back to the idea of perception. Are you
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
You hearing me?
Consciousness. Yep. Yep.
The
Perfect.
idea that the world out there is only a projection of our conditioning, our cultural conditioning, our brainwashing, our culture. I mean, we do not know what's really out there. All we know are our conceptions and misconceptions of reality. So when something comes along, like the UFO phenomena, people try to explain it from what they know, and they're only seeing through a small filter. They're only seeing what they know through what they've learned and been programmed to believe. When you have something like this, we have to kind of cut the bases. We have to drop every precondition we ever thought of about how we thought the world was, because this phenomena does not fit into boxes of the reality that we know. So that's the position I'm taking. I've called my program over the last 10 years New Reality. So the new reality is, how do we see the world differently, uniquely, freshly, without preconceived ideas? And this is the perfect phenomena to deal with, because there's no way we can understand what's going on. And that's what seems to, even someone like Alessandro said, well, there's something out there. We don't know what it is. You know, governments, people, witnesses, military, researchers, people like Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, they're good friends, and they don't know what's going on. Everyone has a little piece of it, but I have not met someone who has the whole picture. And it could be that it's beyond our capability of understanding what it is. Do you think so, Marquise?
So that's interesting. That's a great place to start. Do you? I am a big watcher of Donald Hoffman,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know if you watch. Are you watching any his stuff or reading
I
his book?
watch
His
him,
one.
but I don't agree with him. His whole
Okay.
premise is off. I mean, saying that
Can you
Darwinian evolution and greater perceptions is not an evolutionary advantage. He's coming from a very, I think, old school Darwinian point of view. My opinion.
Okay.
But,
Well, that's
but
interesting. So we'll talk a little bit more about that too.
okay,
We're going to broad overview. I'm
yeah,
so curious about other people's perspective on that because I spend a lot of time listening to all these different people. Of course, it's
yeah,
all I can do is listen.
yeah,
So the Bryce Sable and
yeah. Bryce Sable.
the Ross Coulthard interview was essentially about just his book, that how he's going to interview Ross Coulthard is going to be the first interview, I believe, the first interview that Elizondo is going to give out. I think it's on the 25th or the
Hmm.
23rd, 3 to 5 days after the book launches, which is on the 20th. The book launches on
Hmm.
the 20th. I have, of course, told you. I told you before the show. I have read the full many chapters that was released. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I apologize, Lou, but I bought the book too. Don't worry. I'm gonna respect that, that stuff there. But ultimately, the conclusion, the definitive statements are what I focus on. I think
Yeah.
those are okay to share because he's pretty much alluded to most of them. And the
Right.
definitive statements are: we are not alone. That's the number one thing. These are not, these are non-human intelligences. We need to be open to the possibility that they could be doing what he calls preparation for the battlefield. The behavior that it's exhibiting is that of one that is preparing for the battlefield, studying, testing weapon systems, testing out the civilization, seeing what we're capable of technologically, seeing what we're like biologically, taking samples, all that stuff. These are things that he kind of him and apparently the study
What?
itself.
No, continue. But I just have one comment about what you just said about Elizondo and the reflective nature of the phenomena. But he's an intelligence officer. That's exactly the sort of thing Elizondo would do going into a battlefield. He is a battlefield commander,
Yeah.
Elizondo. So, of course, he looks at the phenomena through his lens, which
Right.
is,
He does say, he says he
uh,
does admit that he said that's his field is that of intelligence and defense, national defense. So he says he could be looking at it from that lens, but he warns the community essentially because the one thing that I will admit personally, I do see the UFO community tends to be very new agey. We have to be careful not to say, oh, they're all love, light, and space brothers.
right,
I
right.
always joke it's not funny because there's some real traumas. I personally have some traumas myself with experience.
Me too.
Willie
Yeah.
Shieber is not talking about benevolence. He does not say they're out there ready to give us a love, and
But
happiness.
he
But there
does
are
call
people
him,
who,
he does say communion though. So, you know, I'm not like, I mean, I love the new age stuff, but I know there's a lot of trauma. I've been traumatized by my contacts, and it's hard to make these clear distinctions between good and evil,
Right.
and I think that's another failure of trying to put, in my opinion, putting it into a box. Oh, it's good. Oh, it's bad. I
Mm.
I don't think, looking at the really big picture, I'd love to get your opinion, that we can actually attempt to put it into those sort of boxes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is I'm excited to have this conversation with you. So this is a one philosophical conundrum I believe that I
Yeah.
personally am in. And a lot of my friends that I talk to outside of the cast too, that we talk about it. I had a conversation yesterday morning with a friend of mine who he said, the whole good and bad, the religious aspect of good and
Mm.
evil. Coley is with us in Marina. Coley, what's up, Coley?
Hi, how are you guys? I had to improvise a
Hey,
little. Yeah, I'm on my
good to
cell
see.
phone. Can you see
That's
me
okay.
okay?
Good to see your face. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yes, yes. Nice to see you also. I'm
All
glad that
right.
it worked out. I was having some issues, so
We're just getting some
cool.
really good points here with Marquis, who is
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah, yeah,
So,
go ahead.
Coley, I'm going to join in. Coley, I'm sure you'll have your perspective. We have a lot of fun with debating, me and Coley, by the way. But we had a conversation about good and evil and how I think it is reductive to go to the whole, oh, it's good and evil, because it suggests a religious connotation to it, right?
Right.
This whole like angels and demons and all that stuff. What I do think that is a kind of a weak point of the UFO community at large is where they don't consider the nature of like what we have on this planet itself. A lion, for example. A lion doesn't look at you and say, you know what? I think that's that human, he seems like a good guy. I'm not going to eat him. If that lion is hungry, it's going to eat you. But I do know people who tame lions. A lot of them
Right.
get attacked, not because the lion's evil, because it wants to suck on your intestines like top ramen noodles. It's hungry. Um, that's kind of how people who raise gorillas and they're out there in the wild. I'm like, man, these people are like really brave to be out there and facing the gorillas. It's all nature. They're creatures that need to be respected. They're not good or evil. We shouldn't be encroaching on their territory and blow them up and kill them. But the one thing I will say is that we respect their power. And no matter how many years of evolution we have gone through, we are still physically below gorillas. We'll never be able to fight a gorilla no matter how much we evolve or take
Right.
steroids and drugs and mod ourselves. We'll always be subject to the gorilla in the wild. And I think the same thing with the phenomena, whatever they are, whatever they have been, they've been that way for thousands of years. I cannot
Mm.
imagine that we'll catch up to them. Wherever we will be in 10 years, they have been thousands of years ago, and they
But
will be thousands of years in the
but
future.
you know what? I think what they're trying to tell us, and not good or evil, is that we are equal to them. We just don't know how to operate the equipment, meaning consciousness. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of people have
Oh
awful
yeah,
experience, right, Coley? Right?
I agree. Yes, yes,
I
very
mean,
much
the
so.
equipment is consciousness, human consciousness, and I use this analogy in my remote viewing class. I teach remote viewing. I said, okay, everything is consciousness. I've interviewed Deepak Chopra. He says, oh yeah, it's all consciousness. Why we have to talk about aliens? And I said, let's say consciousness. What we think consciousness is like a telephone from the 1970s. It's a wired into the wall, and that's all we think a telephone can be, something wired to the wall where you call someone, they call you back. And I come along from the future and say, guess what? A telephone can get me an airplane reservation. I can watch television. I can, do all the things modern telephones can do. And I'm back in the 19, someone's back in the 1970s. What? That's impossible. All I can do is talk through a wire to someone else who has a wire. So
Right.
this is like what consciousness is. It's an application we have yet to understand. You could do so much with consciousness, and maybe the ETs, whoever, whatever that is trying to show us that we have this facility of consciousness, which is equal, I think, to theirs. We just don't know how to operate the system because no one's ever taught, and we've been dumbed down, we're stuck in the matrix. That's one of my theories.
So
I
this
think it's very
this is
interesting.
probably one of my this is one of my favorite things to do. And again, I appreciate this, Alan, because
Yeah.
I would like to see where this goes. Um, I'm interested in this perspective, and I want to share something that I'd like your feedback
Yeah.
on. So I've thought about this. If the phenomena were, for example, showing up in people's bedrooms and only sharing information, we'd have a conversation to have about consciousness and connection and equality with these beings. If they were like that event in I believe it was in Africa, I think it was, or
Mm.
South Africa, where they saw the children, the school children, and they
Right,
gave
right,
them this
right.
message.
Aerial
If
school.
that
Yeah.
was the Aerial School, if that were the kind of thing that was happening at large and for centuries, if not millennia, we'd be having that conversation about the equality and consciousness about us versus them. But I think that we need to expand that conversation to what else is happening. I think we need to look at the work of John Keel, David Jacobs, John Mack, Jacques Vallée, of course. We need to look
Yeah.
at the work and ask the question of: could there be other things happening on top of and compared to the school at Aerial School, there are quite a few more examples of more nefarious activity that we would consider nefarious if it were a human doing it to another human.
Right,
If
right,
these
right.
things are further conscious than us, if they have a greater level of intelligence and empathy and potentially a level of compassion that we can't even fathom, I cannot imagine that they can't understand that what they're doing is imposing.
I don't think they have a level of empathy. I don't think they understand what we know best, our emotional being, our emotional qualities. We're, and I think that's why they're coming here and creating hybrids, because we have that capacity to feel that emotionally that I don't think they have. So, it's been said there are these hybridization. I mean, I think they took some of my sperm and I was given this little creature to hold in my hand that just freaked me out because, I didn't know what it was, but now, thinking about it years later, I think, oh, maybe it was a hybrid from my genetics. And I don't know. I don't know if any of it's true. It sounds really weird as I
Well,
say it, but I think my personal belief is they want part of what our capacity to feel is combined with their great intellect. So, that's one hypothesis. I mean, many people have said that, but that's not a way of getting them off the hook. Yeah, they've been very brutal in their bedside manners and very unfeeling. And the only thing I can think of is that they don't understand our capacity, our sensitivity to feel. I mean, I can't prove that, but
right.
I
I
mean,
have to ask you a question, Alan. I'm going to kind
yeah,
of piggybacks off that. So, in one of my experiences with the tall grays, there was a
yeah,
child, and the child was just sitting and waiting. He looked like a cross between, like, he had bald head. He
yeah.
looked mostly, partially human, but they did not have like empathy. That's what I kept thinking. God, this kid needs a
That's what I'm
hug. This
saying.
kid needs, yeah. So when they showed me how they simulate, so I almost wondered. I was on a podcast and I started talking about it. I'm like, I wonder if that's why we're brought here. Like, why maybe I was brought here is to interact, because they were showing me things of simulations like we would have down here on Earth. And I thought, well, maybe these kids, in order to blend in better at different stages, kind of like it's almost like a training type facility. That's the only thing I could think of. And when you
What?
said that, it just really rang with, like, inside me, like
But
that.
but the fun things about these conversations, we can talk all we want, thinking that maybe it's this, maybe,
Mhm.
because it's all maybe. We do not
Right.
know anything
Mm-mm.
about the phenomena, who they are, how they act, why they're here. All we can do is project our human fantasies,
Anthropomorphize. Yeah,
right, right.
we're
So
Yeah.
anthropomorphizing this phenomenon.
exactly. We're anthropomorphized based on what we know, based on what Lou Elizondo said about the phenomena, strategically planning, which I was a little off by Lou, because he does know better
Mhm.
than to think in terms of his own personal agendas, which is okay.
So
He did whatever.
there
I
are
agree.
examples of why he thinks that way. So let's
Mm,
and this is
yeah.
that's actually a good point, by the way, Alan. You said about how we tend to anthropomorphize the phenomena.
Everything.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I mean, we only think from our perspective. We are human, and
Yeah.
therefore I think it comes naturally for us to look at it from that lens.
Mhm.
I also think that it's important to look at things from, uh, well, what can we compare, for
Right.
example, some of these incidents to?
Right.
I've mentioned this before, that a lot of what I hear from experiencers, and I think we've all done a lot of studying and research. Of course, not on your
Mhm.
level, at least not for my part, Alan.
Well, you
But
have. Yeah.
well, in a different way, but not again. I got to give you kudos for what you've done. You've done a lot more. So let's say that what I've learned is that there's a lot of Stockholm syndrome like behavior with the phenomena, and when
Totally.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
yeah, when I think I don't consider it's so we can say that we can kind of bring back the anthropomorphizing of that um that behavior and say, okay, good or bad is not something that we should put on to label that. However, is it conducive for is it in our benefit for these things to happen? At the
Mm.
moment, the only thing I can think of is, well, no. I mean, we're being told one thing. However, there's things being done to us that are in contradiction, direct contradiction to what we're being told. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. That's a pretty common theme that people are being told. This is as they're being essentially tortured and
Right.
experimented on with great pain and suffering, and sometimes even being told. In the case of, I can't remember at the moment, but you'll help me here. In one incident, a very famous incident that where a man was taken in the middle of a boat trip, I believe, or a trip where he was on the lake. He said that they told him to stop screaming. I don't know why you're screaming. You know that we bring you back. You know that we won't hurt you, in a very cold and a
Yeah.
very unempathetic way. There is, and again, the Whitley Strieber situation where they essentially assaulted him, and there are
Yeah.
many other examples of women being assaulted and men being assaulted with no explanation,
Y-
if anything, at best being told things that are not
Well,
confirmed.
you're absolutely right. I totally agree. There's been a horror show. There's been torture. There's been emotional traumas that I don't know if I've recovered from my emotional trauma. On the other side of that, and not that I'm defending those awful things, but there's been an upgrade of consciousness. People become more aware of a bigger reality. They become more self-reflective. They seem to have psychic powers and can do healings, and there's a whole paranormal phenomenon. So yeah, there's
Right.
that awful stuff, and there's an upgrade that doesn't equal the awful, but there's that there too. So
Fair enough.
right, you've heard those two sides.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Mhm.
So
I ask myself, there's it's like being offered candy from a stranger, you know? They're like, "You
Oh,
get in the
it's
van, man.
there's
I'll give you
more
some."
than that to
That's
it.
pretty much
I
it. They're
got a
like, and then they
Tootsie Pop
except
here. We
except
want
they except after they're done with you, they drop you off with no explanation. I don't want this to be framed as if, oh, they're evil and they're out to get. But we have to face this and say they're also not benevolent and here to save us all from our own self.
I'm just
We've
gonna
been
throw
in war.
one thing out there. Is how
yeah,
much of it
yeah.
is our government? How much of it is our government? Is our government
You
playing
know,
into it?
I don't
Well,
buy like the whole what do they call that deep state, the whole
yeah.
No.
Well,
I'm
breakaway
saying like the
civilization.
CIA
Well,
black
what
project.
would it have been thousands of years ago? They've been doing this
Yeah,
for
exactly.
thousands of years.
I am with you,
So,
Marquise.
you know,
Yeah, I think though the Stockholm syndrome's a really important point, because we do project our stuff onto our captors. So what we're feeling, we're projecting onto them and thinking that they're sympathetic. Or I just, let's look at the facts. People are traumatized, right? That's for sure. And people are upgraded. Those two polarities exist. And we could say one's good, one's bad, but
Mm.
I all we can look at is what's there. This is why Alessandro's work is really so important. This is why we have to demand from the government to tell us everything they know, so citizens, people, us, the ordinary, can't know how to deal with this, know what it is, and they are sabotaging our experience. They're hiding it from us, and that is not right. They are keeping secrets, like, oh no, you're too young to know about sex, or whatever the ridiculous excuses they have. We need to demand truth so we can look at this phenomena on an even playing field, with all the pieces on the table, the bodies, the craft, the technologies, the consciousness. You saw those slides that were leaked from Chris Mellon's computer, right?
yeah, yep.
Right,
Oh,
where they
yeah,
said there's a effect on consciousness. The
right. There's
government
the
has said they are affecting and manipulating consciousness. We need to know this. We know it because we've dealt with this, but everyone needs to know this idea of manipulation. And I'm also asking a bit, is it manipulation, or does it look like manipulation? And are they really trying to save us from ourselves? All the visitations at nuclear power station, about nuclear warheads, turning them off, turning them on. There's that aspect too. This is such a complex phenomena that there is no simple answer. That's sort of it.
yeah. Alan, you have a very measured perspective, and I respect that. This is so I don't actually have. I thought maybe there'd be a little bit of a friendly debate, but honestly, I think I agree with you, and I like your perspective because
Yeah.
I have to sometimes be brought back from. I tend to have a more negative perspective about the overall encounters.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also have a negative perspective about our outlook as human beings. I don't see us in a very good position with respect to these beings. I think at best, um, we are in the way of something, and that we are
Uh,
essentially being used for an end game, whatever that end game is. I
uh,
don't know if we're going to be involved in it or not, but I don't think that we're doing too good in
well,
their
I know what
eyes.
you're saying, and I don't know if there's an end game. My feeling, because I tend to be like a little bit too much in the like, oh, it's probably for our own good, and I don't know if that's true, but there is something about human beings that they're interested in. All right, that's
Right.
let's just and I think, as I said it before, that somehow we are equal to them in terms of consciousness. Maybe not intelligence, maybe not technology, but there's something about who we are that is actually multidimensional. It really is. And I prove this all the time when I teach a remote viewing class. Like, how is it possible for someone, the average person, to know what's not local to their senses? There's a facility of consciousness that has been proven by Stanford Research Institute for 60, 70 years. And now I've proved it to myself by teaching these classes. We can all do this. And no one
Oh my
told
God.
us this is possible. So there's something that we need to learn about the use of consciousness that will raise us up, not to be too woo calling ourselves fifth dimensional, because it gets a little woo out there.
Mm.
But there's a dimensional quality to consciousness that we are in a shift, a phase change. It's just my feeling. Of course, there's a lot of awful things happening that human beings are doing. Human beings, wars, awful, horrible, worse probably than what any ET, or just as bad. So, you know, we're
Let's talk, yeah, let's shift that conversation to the consciousness aspect then. I think we've kind of
okay.
we did a little
All
bit
right.
about one of these days we'll have a more exhausted conversation about that, the phenomena, and maybe what's the overall theme of what we think. That's a really fun conversation. It's one of my
It
favorites, to
is.
be totally honest. I could do this for hours, but I want to get into your expertise. So you look at consciousness.
Yeah.
You say in your mind you see us as equal on the playing field of consciousness, not necessarily intelligence. There is
Yeah.
a distinction in your mind between consciousness and intelligence.
Right.
Can we talk about that a little bit here?
Yeah. No, that's great. It's a consciousness I compare to, like I use the computer analogy. So, intelligence is your updated hardware, right? That's the intelligence of the machine. But the user is using just a different machine, but the user itself is equal to all users that may be using like a lower OS operating system.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but the user itself, like if we're all users, that's the intelligence or the great intelligence behind the manifestation of the operating system. The operating system is the local intelligence, but the consciousness that includes a kind of spiritual perspective, something that transcends the body, is what I'm talking about as
Mm.
consciousness. That seems to me to be equal to whatever consciousnesses are using those bodies to facilitate those experiences.
Mm. So let me
I
ask.
always,
Let me try to
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, Cole.
I just want to
No,
say
go
Okay.
real
ahead,
quick
Cole.
that I kind of describe it as like we might all be different appliances, but we're plugged into the same electrical source. So,
That's a whole
that's
nother.
just the
Wouldn't
word
that be
that.
another? Oh, yeah, so that's two things. I actually want to let's tie that what Coley said into what you just said then.
Yeah.
So in my mind, here's how I perceive that. I know a guy extremely intelligent. I mean, mathematically, this person he could, and logically, I mean, it was very hard to compete with this person. I had debates with him about other like science and things like that.
Mm.
But when it came to concepts about behavior, he was almost childlike. It was almost like he couldn't
Right.
understand what just simple human behaviors were, at least in terms of how we have understood them as a society. He didn't
Mm.
understand that. He wasn't a
I,
very kind person. He wasn't very empathetic. He wasn't
right.
very friendly. But man, he
I
was
would say
intelligent.
that person's part ET. That's exactly the situation we have with our ET friends.
There, you brought another element which we're going to bring in, and that's the potential of hybrids living among us. So
Right.
there's a girl I know who is the exact opposite. I mean, she doesn't like reading books. She doesn't like, any kind of math. And sometimes she says, Marquise, can you and I don't want to say her name, but can you, her name this down for me? Meaning, can you simplify it
Mm,
for me?
yeah.
And then I will simplify it. But she is musically, I mean, genius, and
Yeah.
her voice is beautiful. She can listen to a song and play it on an instrument, and then she can draw, and she's got great art, and she just like does it out of nowhere. I'm like, how do you? She spent 15 minutes, making some artwork, and I'm like, you just did that in 15 minutes. The
Right.
exact opposite. Both of these people, in my mind, they have a level of intelligence that is just completely different.
Right.
But and it's
Right.
but to your point, there's another aspect to them, this consciousness,
Mm.
that even though they express it differently, is equal in power and in intelligence.
Exactly. So couldn't it be that we are equal in consciousness, not talent, not we are maybe more empathy, not like doing great mathematics to these other beings? That's what lets us. If you ever out, you should come to my remote viewing. That lets us to see beyond the local physical body. That lets us be aware of
Mm.
more than just the matrix we've been stuck in. That's what I'm trying to
Elizondo
say.
talks about remote viewing, by the way, in his book.
Oh, I heard that. I heard he was a remote viewer. Remote
Yeah,
viewing
yeah. Mm.
is the key to understanding what consciousness is. Not intelligence, because you don't need to be intelligent to remote view. You need to have an awareness of how what I call the yoga of the mind works, how consciousness infuses into the body. But consciousness doesn't stop at the body. Consciousness is out in the
Mm.
field as well. So we have yet to understand. So we can talk about consciousness, but like UFOs, no one has any idea what that really is. I'm just putting out concepts and possibilities, but
We're all
that's the
pining
final
on these things,
frontier.
or
What's that?
pontificating. We're
Yeah,
pontificating, if you will,
yeah,
about because
yeah.
I don't know, but I will
About something
say
we have no idea about. UFOs,
we can't even.
consciousness, all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We,
to
we
me, it's like, how do you even make sense of a word that there's no definitive meaning to what it is.
right.
We can talk about the expression of what we're trying to say, but we don't actually know what is consciousness. The thing that
Exactly.
survives after death, the thing that is us beyond the flesh. Who knows? I don't know, but I do understand what the expression of that is. And we mentioned, you're
Yeah.
talking about these abilities, kind of are the seat of consciousness, where you're
I think so.
remote viewing and psychic abilities and
Yeah.
all these other things are kind of how consciousness expresses itself. I I have a hard time with this one. This one frustrates me.
Okay.
Because I believe in consciousness. If it were a thing like the soul, or the thing that I don't even think it's the soul, but I think it's something entirely different than the soul. I think consciousness is something different. Um,
Mhm.
because it seats the mind, the memory, our memories and our experiences and our interpretations of those things, and what we are as a human, how we are with other human beings, how we treat each other, how empathetic we are, love. I think that these things are what consciousness expresses, like the consciousness that I guess that of each of us. Would
Mhm.
you agree with that, or maybe I'm off
Well,
key here?
no, you're not off key at all because you're as right as anyone. But let me read you a sentence that Eric Davis, you know who he is, right? And
Oh yeah, of course I do.
Eric
Yeah.
Davis and Jacques Vallée put together a paper called Six Levels of Understanding. What is it called? It's an abstract where they presented, and a lot of people quote this paper because it kind of outlines all of the kind of elements that it's called the physics of high strangeness.
Oh, okay.
Sick,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it's one of the most important. Jeffrey Kripal quotes this. Lakovsky quotes this in his book. But the sentence I'm going to read here is right from the center of that paper. Everything works. This is Vallée probably. If
Mm,
UAPs were a product of a technology that integrates physical and psychic phenomena. If they integrate, everything works means we can explain what UFOs, UAPs, alien, whatever, if we can integrate physical and psychic phenomena, which I think means they're really not two separate things if you look at the level they're coming from. And he goes
mm,
on to say, primarily affecting cultural variables in our society through the manipulation of psychological and physiological parameters in the witness. So, I mean, that's a kind of big mouthful, but I'm just going back to the fact that Vallée himself, who's probably more studied or has studied more on this phenomenon, written more, and has talked to more witnesses than probably anyone alive at this point. He started with J. Allen Hynek in the 50s, 60s. So he says there's this, the psychic and physical are somehow an aspect of the same phenomenon. This is how I'm interpreting. And we don't even know what psychic is. So we don't even know that what the paranormal is. When paranormal is an extension of consciousness. So I'm just throwing it out there to kind of complicate things a little more in a way, because I think Vallée's onto something, but he's not explaining how the physical and psychic are connected. Let's just say they are. I think this is what Skinwalker Ranch is trying ultimately to prove to us, that the physical phenomena has a psychic component, and so do human beings. We are psychically motivated. Our consciousness is what is experiencing reality. And I'm getting a little convoluted here, but or mixing things up. But there's elements that we have to tie together that are in two separate camps. What is psychic, telepathic? What is physical, technology? And it looks like, according to Vallée, they're not two separate things. And this is something John Mack said. We will not understand this phenomenon until we realize other ways of knowing, like more shamanic, more less logical in the way we sense logic is. I think there is a greater logic to it, but it's a supra rational. It's not. So is this making sense at all to you?
This is actually this is so.
But is it fair to say though that we're trying to maybe feel or like understand all this from human constructs, and they may just not apply at all?
Well, that's the problem. We have to go beyond human constructs. That's our biggest issue here.
So the intellect is not we're trying to understand it through intellect, which is the problem, because what you're suggesting through that paper is that we should be using shamanic meditations and mind practices, things that help us to tune into something beyond the physical.
But not just shamanic, though, because that's a little woo. We need somehow. I mean, I love shamanism, and it's great. We need somehow to be whole brain creatures. We need to let go of fitting everything into. And I'm not saying I have the answer, but the rational way of thinking about phenomena, cause and effect, it doesn't seem to work. Maybe the cause is the effect is the cause. Maybe things we haven't even thought of is happening, but we have to throw away the old way of thinking, basically, is what I'm saying.
Have you seen the movie? I think it's called The Arrival, or is it?
It's
called Arrival, not The Arrival.
I love that movie. I actually, it was. What are you going to say about that?
So, I'm glad you saw it. This is the one with the beings that traveled. The insected. What do they call them? Let me think. Let me look up the name of the aliens. But they have these beings. They look like kind of like giant squid. And they end up showing up in these very interestingly shaped, flat on the one side but domed on the other, and they're tilted, and they're all over the major centers in the world, major places of the world. But ultimately, we scientists and the military kind of surrounds them, and scientists go in to talk to them. We find a way to communicate with them, and it takes a while because we just don't think the way that they do. They don't think in terms of past, present, and future. They see it all happening at one time. And so essentially when we communicate, we had to develop a new language to communicate with them, to understand what message they're trying to deliver. A very interesting idea. And honestly, there's a lot more to it philosophically than what
you touched on a great point. That is an excellent point, Mikey. We have to develop a new language and a new way of thinking. So language implies thinking. If we're really going to not even understand this phenomenon. I mean, maybe understand it, but we need to relate to this phenomenon, I think is a better way of putting it. We need to think differently. If you've read the Carlos Castaneda books, we have to move our assemblage point to another location. So the manifested reality becomes a different ontological vehicle. That's not too intellectual.
Well,
But
that's actually
No, that
it's
makes
really
sense.
interesting.
Yeah.
So the way that you're talking about it, you have to ask yourself, how many
Mhm.
people do you think understand this conversation at all? Let alone some of the concepts that we're
Good
presenting to
question.
the
No,
to
but
them.
I don't care. I'm happy you do, and that we can talk to each other, the three of us, because
That's right.
we've studied this, we've looked at this. We're saying, I had Eric Weinstein on the show when I interviewed Lou Elizondo, and he was saying, he's supposed to be this genius, and he hadn't read all the background material, and he asked some ridiculous question. I said, Eric, you have to read them. You have to study this subject to
Yeah.
even ask the question. So a lot of people, most people are not having this conversation or not even understanding. But those that have looked at it, Real Alexander Book, who looks at UFO Twitter and all the interviews that and read Jacques Vallée and John Mack and Whitley Strieber and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and can incorporate all that into a kind of evolving worldview. They're ready to have this conversation and more. We're just beginning the conversation, and it's going to get wild. It's going to get ugly.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about ugly, but it's
Well,
going to get
I think it's
intense.
I think that people will generally be frustrated with the truth because even from our perspective, we're trying to make sense of all of these different concepts and ideas,
Right.
consciousness and so forth, what the intentions are of these beings, or at least what they are, what does it all mean, looking at the behaviors and then trying to disassociate the intention itself. Because we don't want to say, oh, they intend bad, but we do know
Right.
they intend something. So we have to
Right.
be able to do that without anthropomorphizing, so on and so forth.
Right. But no, I'm
Go
just
ahead.
wanting. Sorry to interrupt you, but this is not frustrating to me. This is exciting.
To me, it
I mean,
is, but not to
right?
most people.
No, but if everyone looked at it like, wow, there's something going on here that nobody understands, not the government, not the witnesses, not the researchers, not no one understands. And we are confronted, humankind is confronted with its ultimate mystery. And our job is to put the puzzle pieces together, even though all the pieces are not there. I
Right.
can't think of anything more challenging, exciting, and what I would want to devote, my time to understanding than this thing, whatever this is.
So you
Right?
So
you use the
Aren't you
word.
excited?
Oh,
yeah, no,
100%. You
I 1,000% agree on that one.
Yeah. So
It's
frustration.
from the time, as
What?
you say, from the time I encountered it, it completely changed my course of life. Like there
Right.
was no turning back. It was just like,
I mean, frustration is for right. I think frustration for people who want the answers now. Oh, it has to fit into and it's an evolution. We are being taken along for the ride, and Elizondo's part of it, and he has a piece, maybe more than others, but he doesn't know what's going on. I mean, maybe more, but we're all being educated, and we're educating each other from our perspectives, and we're on the kind of threshold of something unknown that it's just going to blow everyone away. Is my feeling, right? Isn't that amazing?
The last thing that I want to do, and I want to be very clear, because if in case Elizondo is listening, which my heart would jump for joy if he was,
Maybe.
I don't want to assume what his perspective is.
Right.
My interpretation of he mentions the preparation for the battlefield, those words. He said it before an interview, so I'm not really revealing anything per se about the book that's not not already known. He doesn't say, "Oh, they're coming to kill us all," but there is a suggestion that there could be a from his perspective, given he's in defense, a potential threat, an existential one. And I think from my interpretation of what I read so far is that according to his experience with this phenomenon and studying it from his perspective, my interpretation is that there is at least an aspect of it that's, if not benign, not indifferent, well, at the very least indifferent, which would not be good, because if it's indifferent, there is a quote that I keep referencing from the new TV series, Three Body Problem. At the very end of the first season, there is a flashing phrase. You are bugs. And when you think
Mm.
about what bugs are to us, they're in the way. They're not
You will
good. They're
eat
not
them.
bad. They're annoyance.
Like it.
Some people eat them, but most of us are trying to just get them out of our house, right? We're just trying to get them out of the house, get them out of the store, like get them out of the.
I think that's a little drastic. I think first of all, I think the battle's already been lost. You know, I don't know what
Oh, 100%.
I don't know what
100%.
Lou is worried about. They're in our heads. They're in our thoughts. They're manipulating our reality. They're making us see things that aren't there, and losing time and time displacement. I mean, they've already in control. They've already, but maybe that could be for our own good, because look at the mess we've made just on our own of this world. So I think, I don't know what Lou is worried about. The battle is over, Lou. We're not winners or losers, but they are in full control. They're not preparing to do bad. They're here. It's done. It's finished. Our job now is, it's not, because it wasn't really a battle, I feel, to begin with. It's and this is kind of the woo-woo positive, it's a little upgrade of the human situation, that from the mess we've created just amongst ourselves, and maybe we're manipulated to do that, I don't know, but what we have here is an opportunity to raise ourselves up.
So
You know,
there's
if you
there's
even
one.
take that kind of perspective, though, if you think about it being the military, so UFOs clearly hold global air dominance and air superiority over our very black aces. Like,
Right.
they
Exactly.
are able to do things, like you said, they're so far advanced technology-wise, they're so far advanced whatever
That's right.
way.
There's
So I
no
could
battle
see
here.
why his perspective would be, because as an ex-military, I don't know if he's still in the Navy or not, but you know, that would be programmed on how he would probably think. You have to always think of where, you know, that person's is
The battle is over, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, go
Yeah.
So
ahead,
before
Marquis.
there's one thing that
Yeah,
there's a couple of things floating around in UFO lore lately. The one
yeah,
thing is that there may be, again, we don't know what the whole phenomena is.
right.
David Grush mentioned it during his hearing, during the testimony, that he kind of likened the phenomena, at least some of these beings, as to like shadow, something casting a shadow into our
Hmm.
reality, but that's not them. It's more
Right,
of like an automaton that represents something that they are casting in our dimension or in our reality.
right,
They mentioned there was that paper that was leaked on Reddit where that gives a very in-depth biological perspective of what,
right.
according to this alleged scientist who's worked on these beings, that they're not necessarily, they're engineered biological organisms.
Yeah,
Something has created them to be biological. They're taking certain biological different species on our planet and creating this new species specifically to interact with us and engage with humanity. But whatever it is, it's not here. It's not even in this dimension. It's somewhere else,
right.
and it's using these things kind of like intermediaries to engage with us. Then there's Whitley Strieber, who
Mm.
recently posted. I don't know, not posted, but he put in his Twitter tagline. If I were a machine, I would deceive you too. And we've been in
Mm.
this whole idea that these beings could be machines, intelligent machines, versus actual organisms like we are. That something has created them. It
Right.
again, I don't know, but it makes sense. You can
Mm.
make that you can kind of make that hypothesis at leap.
No, but listen to this. My theory for you and Coley, and I don't know if this is right. So you're saying there may be something behind creating these biological machines we're calling
I think
ETs.
Yeah,
Right.
John
Keel.
Keel
Right.
mentioned this. He
Right.
said that there is essentially there's a deception, and that
Yeah.
these things. So sorry, you go ahead.
No, no, no. Say no. Finish that sentence. These things are
That
what?
these things are essentially, not only are they not human, they're not even from they're not even from this reality. They're from somewhere else. They're projecting aliens and demons and jinn, and Jacques Vallée kind of
Mhm.
seconds this. They're projecting fairies and
Mhm.
UFOs and flying ships with nets
Well,
that capture people
okay.
and take them into the sky, and gods.
All right. Well, I have like just were you going to say something, Coley? Because I have news based on that last um, sentence, paragraph, or whatever. We're not from this dimension either. these are avatar bodies. We're really not here. We're in, and this is just my belief, I can't prove it. We're in some super consciousness field using and manipulating these physical things, and we think it's real. Just like, I see you there on the computer. You guys are two-dimensional, but I know there's like a whole substance behind those pictures, just like there's a whole thing, a kind of infinite, not to get too spiritual, infinite conscious, whatever it is that's behind these avatars. And maybe, perhaps, possibly, I don't know, what these things are showing us is that we also are operating these biological robots from a similar dimension that those things are operating. And maybe if we wake up to the fact that this is an illusion, that we may meet them on that, and not on that playing field. Does that make sense?
It does. Man, that's a tough one for me because, when I think
I
about
agree.
when I think about an intelligence, a being, whatever we want to, again, we call it intelligence because it's the new lingo now,
Right.
the new vernacular. But
Right.
like when I think about them and us, there isn't a comparison. I think that the difference is so vast that a comparison doesn't exist. I cannot imagine that what these things are doing, we are even remotely capable of, at least at will. And I don't think, even again, we're talking about these things have been doing this kind of capabilities for thousands, for millennia that we are aware of. That this is written history is talking about these beings for millennia. They were once the gods, and now they
Yeah.
are showing as UFOs and aliens. And I
Yeah.
think that to believe that we will ever equate to them, I think that one's a little bit more confusing to me. I can't see that. I also
Well,
can't see that we will ever just like,
yeah.
I think that a shift in consciousness or awareness, I do believe that awareness is a key to change, but I can't imagine that as much as we have failed with what is right in front of our eyes. Hey, look, you need to change this. We have literally jumped into lava just to spite our neighbor so we can
Right.
splash a little bit onto their skin.
Right.
I just, I don't see.
What do
I
you
don't
mean? To explain that statement, please.
No, I know what you
war,
mean.
war,
I
war,
what do you
and
mean?
and
Oh,
the way that we treat each other in general, the way that nations have seen each other, the way that we see even foreigners in our own countries, the way
Right.
that we to me, the cognitive dissonance is so prevalent in our civilization. I can't imagine nothing will
Well,
change us. I
because
don't.
we're believing the illusion of physicality, and it's great. These bodies are fantastic, but Hal Puthoff has a paper about ultra terrestrials, saying there was a race of humans or ultra humans that were able to develop this capacity of the mind to be in the space where there's a space people have when they have near death experiences or out of body experiences. They are this consciousness field. And maybe there was a race of beings that were able to perfect this idea of out of body or ultimate conscious beings. And maybe that's what this vehicle is. But we have that potential. Again, I go back to that point. I'm not saying we've applied that potential, but definitely we go someplace when we leave here, and it could be, I've talked to probably the best near-death experience or the most well-versed, Anita Morjani. If you know her book, A Dying to Be Me, you should read it. She was dead, went over, and I asked her, well, did you see other beings there in that near-death experience space? And she said she did. She did. She caught a glimpse of these other beings. So I think
What did she?
transcendent. What beings? I said, have you
How did
seen
she?
the?
How did she make sense of that experience? What did she? What
Well,
is her takeaway from that?
well, she has a whole book about that. But when she was in that kind of in between state, it was like being in a room full of things, and the light goes on really quick, and then it goes off, and you just remember a little glimpse of what you've seen. So there were other beings, she said, but she didn't get a really clear picture. And there was her father on the other side, and there were these other aspects. Its consciousness is so vast, if we want to talk about consciousness again, that when we fit it into the human body, it has to be narrowed down and quantified. So when we're beyond it, the vastness of what we are. And I think we can reach that state. And maybe this is what the ETs or whatever they want to call themselves are. They've reached this vastness of what the potentiality of consciousness really is. And we're just kind of here fighting it out because all we think we are is physical beings creating war on each other. And, you know, and we have to grow up. I think this is part of what them are helping us hopefully to realize, is that, like, it goes back to that first thing, that there's more to us than we even know.
This is like my favorite, man. Listen, I don't know how much time we have with you. We do have a second
Whatever
hour.
you want. I'm
Okay.
enjoying this too. So let's.
This
Yes.
is so cool, man. So we have our first break. When we come back, I really want to I want to continue this thought experiment, this back and forth with these thought experiments, and kind of exploring these philosophical concepts and the potential and possibilities. I don't get a chance to do this often on stream. It's usually outside of stream where I'm like, okay, what about this
Right.
is so good. This is another one of
Thank
those
you.
I'm listening to it again. So please stay with us. We're going to go on our first break, ladies and gentlemen. So hang tight. We'll be right back with Alan. So, all
Thank
right,
you.
y'all.
They're watching from the shadows, an intelligence beyond our own. Whistleblowers shouting warnings, researchers feeling all alone. We're blinded by our arrogance, thinking we're the only ones in control. But they've been among us, preparing for their role. This revelation is shock to our core. Are we ready for what's in store? Something is coming, we can feel it in the air. Our force so powerful, beyond compare. They've been trying to warn us, but we just don't care. We're not prepared, it's too much to bear. They're not like us, there's something more. A non-human intelligence knocking on our door. Whistleblowers risk it all. Researchers sounding the alarm once more, but we're too focused on ourselves. Blind to the signs of what's to come. Will we wake up in time, or will we be left numb? We've been warned, but will we listen? Something is coming, we can feel it in the air. Our force so powerful, beyond compare. They've been trying to warn us, but we just don't care. We're not prepared, it's too much to bear. They're not like us, there's something more. A non-human intelligence knocking on our door. Whistleblowers risking it all. Researchers sounding the alarm once more, but we're too focused on ourselves. Blind to the signs of what's to come. Will we wake up in time, or will we be left numb? We've been warned, but will we listen? Something is coming, we can feel it in the air. Our force so powerful, beyond compare. They've been trying to warn us, but we just don't care. We're not prepared, it's too much to bear. Something is coming, we can feel it in the air. Our force so powerful, beyond compare.
We are back ready to rock and roll with Alan Steinfeld. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening in on the radio, oh, sorry, got it. My branding is still playing. It repeats. Why does it do that? So, anyway, what's up, everybody? We're back. If you listen on the radio side, that's Helix Rock Radio. What's up, Rock Radio? We love you guys. If you're listening in on the Twitch side, thank you, gamers, for watching us. That is just awesome. I don't know why you're not playing video games. Maybe you're playing video games and listening to us. That's awesome too. One day I'll do a video game stream where we can game and talk about all kinds of stuff. So we'll wait for that. And YouTube, of course, we love you guys. That's where our main chat is in YouTube. So I see y'all showing love in the chat. By the way, what's up, Midwest Night Watcher and Drew? It's a pleasure to see you guys in the chat. Yes, you guys are in the chat. Yes. It is okay, Drew, to come into our chat. We will share the love and we will share our audience. We have no problem with that. So thank you for sharing some love in there too, guys. And of course, Facebook, if you're watching. Guys, we are making it all over the place. We will be on Twitter next episode. That will be the last platform I have to connect to this. So that's really cool too. So Alan, we were really going over that. We were having this, philosophical, whatever, existential conversation. So let's get into this other question that I've been, or this kind of this area that I've been really trying to understand. It sounds like to me, you have a bit of optimism about the human race, and I respect. I think that for me, I think optimism is good for balance, because I think the world is full of negativity. Full of it, full of if you will, in some cases, despair, and so the optimism is essential for us to have something to hope for, to believe in, something that stops us from descending into complete chaos and helplessness and or despair. So I appreciate. I have to challenge some of that,
Of course.
because I think that for me, I worry a lot about what to me appears to be some kind of a almost like bugs to a light, right? They see something, they're drawn by it, and because of the nature of whatever that expect connection is, they're constantly being zapped by it. And I worry that we are, in essence, being essentially drawn towards the phenomena, and not all of it, but at least at large, a mass majority of it isn't, I don't think, in human beings' favor. I wonder if you can explore and kind of come at the opposite perspective and tell me why. I don't know why that wouldn't be, if you see that what we've laid out here and some of the things that we've talked about.
Well, first of all, we have to demand whatever the government knows. Are you getting feedback or something?
Yeah, I think your mic switched. I believe your mic may have changed to the.
Did it? Did it switch my mic? Oh, that's good. Let me see. My sound preferences out in. How's that? Is that better? What?
So if you go into StreamYard,
settings,
if you hit settings and then audio, and then there should be there you can change the audio. It would be under.
Okay. Right. Okay. I could go there. Is that better?
Almost. No. There we go.
Test.
There we go. That's
better.
That's way better. Okay. There we go. That's beautiful. That sound is beautiful. Audio book ready. Let's go.
No. Yeah. First, to preface that whole question, we need to demand that whatever the government knows, they need to tell us. They say, "Oh yeah, Elizondo and other people said, oh, it's going to be too much to handle." We need to be upgraded with a bigger awareness. Carl Mel said that in sense of the pursuit of happiness means we know all of reality as it is. So we can't even have this conversation because there's a whole section of what is going on that we're not being told about. And I don't think they have all the answers also, but at least they know more than we do. On the other end of this, we're living in an incredible paradise. This planet, a good planet is hard to find, and this planet is just a fantastic, giving, lush, abundant, beautiful place. And you look at a lot of other planets out there, they really don't have the resources that we have. So we've been given a paradise and we've been destroying it, not because of ETs, I don't think, but because of our own greed, our own, obsessions with money and power and fame. And so the problem is human beings. We if we could get ourselves together, if we could have the power to meet them again. I know I said on an even playing field, but in this book I quote Bruce Lipton. You know who Bruce Lipton is?
I do. I do, but only I have not gotten into his work. No.
Bruce Lipton is a biologist who is an evolutionary biologist. He talks
Yeah.
about how the cells, we're like
Mhm.
cells in a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
human body. And he says
Yeah.
the next level of evolution is for all of us to recognize that we're cells in a larger community coming together to form an awareness of one living organism we call humanity. We're not humans until we create humanity. That is when we all recognize that we're all cells, part of the same living organism, and we work in a coherent fashion. Then humanity is complete. This is Bruce Lipton. And when humanity is complete, the earth as an organism completes its evolution, because he says humans are like receptor sites on the cell, bringing information into the earth. The earth itself and the beings on it become a living, pulsing, breathing Gaia. And when we come together in unity with a voice of unity, that will allow us to speak as one. That will allow others to speak with us as one, forming the next level of superorganism. So we're still very much disconnected from each other. We see each other as different, as other, but our consciousness, if you want to talk about, is unified. Just us having this conversation, you could tell, Marquis, that
We're
somehow,
vibing.
yeah, and that's consciousness linking up,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
can feel that. But imagine if the whole planet was vibing.
Yeah.
What an incredible, and I think that's possible, but too many people have been programmed for greed and war and this and that, and to not even get how they can vibe with their own family, their own friends. So when we get there and we come together as this super field of consciousness, then we meet the others who are already in that oneness, who then we form the next level of evolution. I don't know. Does that make sense? We become
That's
one,
yeah.
they
So
become
there are
one, and
two.
together we become
Yeah.
a new one.
There are two words and a
Yeah.
concept that come to my mind with what you just said.
Mhm.
Symbiosis, which I am
Right.
a big I push this idea about symbiosis and our symbiotic relationship, not just with each other but the planet especially. And I think in your conversation here, I think you imply it through that. But
Right.
also symbiosis and resonance. When people are resonating, or as we just said, we're vibing, right? When we
Right.
vibrate on a frequency, when we resonate together on a single frequency, a similar frequency, then we can develop, in my opinion, we kind of, there's like this point at which all things change, where almost like that equilibrium that changes the entirety of the whole. We're no longer operating in this disconnected, this unified way. We're now working in a one mind unified way that may develop abilities and that just naturally they just kind of emerge from
Right.
this resonance, from this connectedness, from this symbiosis. That
Right.
I think is, when you hear about people who are connected to nature and their village is close and they have a very small community of people and they're all so connected that you hear about that they resonate. There's people that say their parents, their mother and child, they can sense the feelings, or
Yeah.
twins who are so connected and that they can sense their emotions. And ad infinitum, there's a lot of other examples, but ultimately that resonance is possible with humanity. I think that's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, and not only
So
that, if you and Coley ever done a CE5 where you're out under the stars and you're calling in the ships, the only way, from my experience, that they show up is if you change your if you raise your vibe, if you connect to
mm,
this peaceful place, then you start to see. And actually, Stephen Greer, not one of my favorite people, but he's
yeah,
no,
we
he
call
was
him.
great. Yeah, I
He
mean,
was. He was. No, he's monumental to the
yeah,
field.
yeah,
I will
no,
say
he's
that.
very important in lots of
Yeah.
things, but an intense human being. But no, he's okay. I don't know him that well, actually, and he's
Yeah.
been kind to me. But he developed this protocol where you really change your vibration, and
Mm,
only then. And I did it with him, and you do start to see these things, and other people have done it with, where you change the vibration. These things appear in the sky. These lights, these flashes. It's like we have to like, am I really seeing that? Like I was looking at night vision goggles, and we were doing a C5 with another group of people with Zazar. I was looking through these night vision goggles, and there was this triangle up way out there that you can only see with a night vision like this. It's top of the pyramid was pointing up. As I was looking at it, that pyramid went from pointing up to pointing down. It's like, oh my God, there really is stuff out there. It kind of like said, well, I guess this stuff is real. I mean, I knew it was real, but when you start to see stuff, and I don't know, it is about vibe. It's about vibing
So
it.
I have something to kind of
Yeah.
potentially change the tone of this conversation.
Okay.
There's a Bryce. So in that conversation today, this really messed with me. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna disturb me for a while. I'm not like oh no, I mean, like, I am gonna be so like interested in exploring what this might mean. So Ross Coldheart mentioned a very deliberate, I believe, term. He mentioned the Collins elite in that conversation with Bryce Zabel on the Need to Know podcast. Do you have any idea who the Collins elite are?
Wait, say that the common elite?
Collins
Collins.
elite. Collins elite.
Is that a
I've
person?
heard of
Collins elite?
No, it's a group
It's a
of people
bloodline.
allegedly. So, well, so ultimately,
Oh.
the general lore behind the Collins elite, and this is related to the UFO phenomena,
Yeah.
is that there is a group of people within government and other aspects of power in our civilization that are connected to the phenomena. However, they're not connected in a very positive way. They believe that there is a spiritual warfare going on. They look at this through a spiritual lens. However, even worse, I also connect, and this is of my own, I will admit, this is my own personal perspective. I've read a lot of Peter Levenda's work, and Peter Levenda is extremely influential on my perspective. I would like to talk to him one day to help me illuminate some things. But ultimately, when I think about the potential for people within government who are directly engaged with the phenomena on a level that they believe is spiritual, and they're using these what have been called rituals. In Peter Levenda's work, he talks about satanic rituals within government. Collins elite, they talk about this whole idea is that there's these elites that are there's these people that are performing these rituals and summonings and things where they're communing with the spirits, these entities. They claim to be extraterrestrial, that they're the lights in the sky, UFOs. It's all part of this same thing, and that the ultimate goal is for the soul of humanity, and that there is a great deception, and that the reason why the government isn't talking, essentially, is because they would have to reveal this element of the phenomena, that there is a darker side, a much, much darker, that there is a potential for a intelligence, a being, a group of beings that is not just interested in our it's like fattening a pig up before you chop it up and eat it, right? They don't want to eat your body, but your soul, that consciousness you talk about, is essentially the full course meal. I hate talking about this because I don't like
no. I've done a whole show about, you know who the archons are. They might be similar to us.
I heard about the archons. I've heard about
The
this different, but I've heard about them.
They live off our. I mean, I'm really convinced of this. They really live off our emotional sufferings. So they're feeding off of war, and they create the wars, and their food is our emotionality, whether that's love or lust or hate or anger. And so I think, though, that's separate in my like little cosmology from part of the phenomena that is here, showing up, putting out good vibes, and you're getting some flashes of light, you're getting a download, you're getting some insight into some scientific understanding. So it's very complex, this whole thing. It's this very just catching a bug there. The whole thing
You have no idea how ironic it is that you
is
said that.
it?
Because my joke earlier about you are bugs to talking about the
Yeah,
aliens and stuff.
right. I just saw the bug.
But you're
Yeah.
not gonna eat it, are you?
No, I
Throw
hope
it back
not.
outside.
It's too
You're gonna squish
disgusting.
it.
Yeah.
No, that's a good
Sorry.
point. I was doing a show to like starseeds, and this praying mantis showed up on my window screen. So, I mean, nature, reality is talking to us, but we have to listen. And that's right. No coincidence. There's something that's a feedback loop to consciousness itself. So we're not just bugs because we have a awareness of this bigger picture. So this thing, what you call the something elite, I've
The
heard
Collins
about
elite.
the Collins elite. I've heard about this whole Christian faction within the government that want to keep the UFO thing suppressed because they think we're dealing with demons. I
Well, hold
say,
on one second. That's actually the so the difference. This is a misconception
don't
actually.
tell me.
So the idea is that there is a another faction that is actually a part of the demonic aspect of it. And I don't like I hate these terms,
No,
but
I know
essentially
what
that
you
there is a group of people within government and business, of course, corporate that where they're literally like they're in communion with the darker side of the
mean.
phenomena,
Right,
that these people who are Christian are aware of it, and they think it's that the phenomena is demonic, but not because they're just Christian fundamentalists, because
right.
there's another element of this where they are communing with these darker spirits through summonings and rituals and things like that.
Right. And then there's another element. I just interviewed this woman named Ann Tucker, who's talking to these angels who say, no, there's some great things coming. The good, if you want to call it that, ETs are arriving. There's going to be this great flash of light. I mean, I don't know if I believe this, like a
Oh
solar
yeah,
flare, and it's going to like wake people up.
Anjali.
Who?
The John
Oh, yeah.
Ramirez talks about this woman named Anjali. She did
I know
a con.
Anjali.
Okay,
I don't
so
know if I like Anjali, but I don't know. I've had I did a whole press conference with Anjali at the steps of the Lincoln
I
Memorial. And
remember I watched that, by the way.
right.
That
So
was
some of the
amazing.
things, yeah, it was pretty intense. So some of the things she said didn't happen, and this whole expedition didn't happen. But this woman, Ann Tucker, who claimed to talk to angels, says there's going to be this flash of light and the good ETs are going to show up. So I don't know what to believe, but whatever it is, whatever the government knows that we're dealing with these other things, it has to, and it doesn't matter if it shakes people up. We have to know what they know. And it's time for humanity to grow up and face, if that's what's going on, if there's this awful demonic element that just like transcends religion, we want to know. People have to get out of the dogmas that they put on top of this phenomena and look at it for what it is. I want to know what it is. And I don't think it's one thing. I think there's many forces
Right.
fighting for the
I agree.
soul of humanity, if you want to call it that.
I'm with you.
And
I'm with you.
and I think there are probably not so nice forces that just want to stay in power. But my thing is that the vibration, this is just my theory and other people have, that the vibrational rate of the physicality of Earth and our bodies is shifting to a faster frequency, and we are being elevated to this grander awareness, and those forces are trying to keep that vibration lowered and at this old way. And many of us are moving to a new field where the old dramas are dropping away, and love and light and all those woo-woo things are can happen, in a good way.
But in
So
saying that though, do you think ET, like when I've come in contact with ET, it wasn't like, hey, come give me a hug, I've missed you, this love and light stuff.
yeah.
That is, do you know what I'm saying? There's like a contradiction right there. Well, we're gonna
I don't know if it's a
love everybody and
contradiction or
go to the higher frequency, but the higher frequency doesn't seem to be loving us back.
well, there's
for
some
themselves.
parts of the higher frequency that is. Maybe you didn't reach the highest beings. It's not like give me a hug, but I'm yes.
Coley.
I mean, I'll give you a hug, Coley, okay? But
Aw, thank
yeah,
you, Ellen.
but I think it's all mixed up. We have all grades. It's like going from kindergarten to graduate school right here in one classroom of this dimension, and we're intermixing. And I do think there's a level of love, because when you reach a level of love and light, if you've done that at moments, everything seems to be kind of fun and beautiful and joyous. I don't think that's delusional. Maybe it is, but I think there are beings that exist on that level, and they've somehow graduated, and
Okay.
we're just stuck in the dramas of this 3D, negative kind of interface that we're trying to grow up out of. But we have to know the truth. We have to know what's going on if we're going to transcend it. And that's the fault.
So,
and that's the problem we're having with government.
My second question is: the government comes out tomorrow, Annalyn, and they're like, "Nope, this is everything that tells us everything." Do you think people are going to believe it?
Hold on, wait, Coley. I have to dovetail off that same question. So, will we believe it, Coley? That is an excellent question. Also, not just that.
I believe things the government says. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, or just not.
So,
Yeah,
you know what? No.
No, what are you going to say though?
Ask Coley's question. Answer Coley's question first, because I want to dovetail off that afterwards. Actually,
Okay.
I'll wait till after.
It's hard to believe at this point anything the government tells us, but if we could get a really honest, sincere, maybe Alessandro, I don't totally trust, because he's intelligence, and I asked him when I interviewed him. When I interviewed Alessandro, I said, "Tell me about these non-human intelligence," and he answered me, "Well, we don't know what they are. They could be human." I mean, he evaded that question, which he now is coming out and saying that yes, there's non-human intelligence. So he keeps changing his story based on whatever.
I don't think he was. I think he was doing that because more like what he's kind of walking a fine line, right? He's kind of tightroping his way through this conversation.
He is,
Yeah.
and
versus changing his story.
But he still is. But he still is, right? Still tightrope.
Otherwise, he'd be.
Oh yeah, he still is. Yeah,
well, how do we know what he's saying? Right. What he's saying in the book is another tightrope walking. In a way, right?
I mean, I will say that. I will say this:
someone to come out and give us the truth, like just
no, we don't. We don't. I think that's the problem.
If you don't want to listen to it, you plug your ears. But
no,
I'm ready for it. Alan's ready for it.
What are you going to take off on Coley's question and say?
So first, I think that's the problem. I think that last point that you guys both made about whether we would trust the government. First of all, most people will not, because the government has already explicitly said this is the thing. This is real. They've already said this. They released a document that literally said, don't make me curse. They literally said that there are unaccounted for pregnancies in relation to the phenomena. That's in that report, the UAP report.
Yeah.
Well, that's all. They don't talk about the children, but they talk about unaccounted for pregnancies. Has anybody even so it's not like they haven't just said, okay, yeah, they're real. There's some weird stuff going on. They did Slide 9 and Christopher Mellon coming out, and Carl Nell literally coming out and saying we're not alone. There's definite, like you got Gary Nolan saying 100% certainty. Come on, we already know. We've got prevalent scientists, we've got top-ranking officials, we've got under oath testimony, we've got pilots talking about it's there. We still don't believe it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's undeniable. I think that what you're talking about is an explicit admission about not just is it real, what specifically is it that we're dealing with without confusion and obfuscation and walking around. What are we dealing with?
All that. Yeah. What are we dealing with?
They won't believe it because people, the UFO community definitely won't believe it. First of all, no matter what the government says, they won't believe it because they think that everybody is a counterintelligence. It's a government. So no matter what they say, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And I think that's a problem. You have to be able to.
You got to pick up the pieces. You got to know what.
Yeah, but the problem is that people will believe Richard Doty. People will believe Richard Doty, but not
some of what he says.
I mean.
Oh no!
I don't know. So I think that to that point, I think that the problem is that I think that
was never said enough substance, and the books are written by other people. If he were to sit down and have a conversation, he is a man of few words.
No,
I think that if you're intelligent, I think
Elizondo has something to say. I don't know if I trust him completely, but I think he's pushed the envelope further than anyone else has since 1947, right?
Him and David Grush, I think, are like
David Grush. Yeah,
him and David.
I trust David Grush. He seems a little more.
But he's on the same. He's on the same page as Elizondo, though.
Yeah, but
They're
he
all
think
seems a
different.
little more innocent feeling. He's not as sophisticated in his intelligence
right.
manipulation. And
Well,
so,
that's
Alan,
my thing. That's my
have you ever thought about doing research on the experiencers? Like, have you ever
yeah,
thought
that's
well,
about
what
that?
lots
that's
of
where I was,
people have
well,
done
that's where I
it.
was going. That's where I was going
Where,
with that dovetail question.
where are you going?
So
Tell
the
me.
question I wanted to dovetail, and I apologize, because this is so awesome. I'm really I'm honestly like drooling over here with this conversation. So to with what you and Chloe mentioned about the government, the experiencers, people have been talking about engaging with this phenomena forever, and I
Yeah.
think that to me is where, we know because we're in it, and I've experienced, you've experienced, Coley's experienced, we all have had an experience. Many of our audience members have experienced the phenomena, whatever you want to call it, in some way.
Right.
There are entire religions that are founded off of engaging the phenomena. I
Yes.
mean, it's undeniable that the phenomena has appeared to us as gods in history. They've been here, they've talked about it, they say they
Absolutely.
are.
Absolutely.
But that's the
But
problem to me.
So
The
yeah, but
problem is, what if the gods?
there's three
Well,
different that they have out there. There's three different inventory surveys. I have my hands on all three of them. Marquise's buddy, he likes them. I don't. He tried.
it's
They
my
put
guy.
what
as soon as I put to try and get this put together,
three
he had it
three
pretty well
what?
sealed.
What is
Yeah,
Huh?
what do you
what
say that
It's
again?
an
three things?
okay. It's the experimenters or let me stop again. The experiencers database. So I pulled from the rope pull from Edward or Bigelow, not Edward. I don't know why I said Edward.
Like
From
Bigelow.
Bigelow, the Star
Mhm.
Team, the government. There's all three that they have, and I've gotten them and I combined them into a research study group. And so when I tried to bring it to light, and we even had somebody that was going to set up security
Coley,
around
you're
it. We
talking
had like
about
all this stuff.
Bigelow's research into consciousness
Uh-huh.
and life after death, or
No,
Skinwalker Ranch, or
it's what they were trying to
The
look for in the
Roper poll that
experiencers,
Bigelow
and
put
I think
together.
it's what they're trying to and what they're trying to do to identify us. I wanted to reverse it and find out what they were looking for in us, but I've got my hands on all three copies. And I was going to say your buddy Ramirez, or was it Ramirez or
John
Phenomenal.
Ramirez, the CIA
yeah,
guy.
yeah, the CIA guy.
Well, listen,
Holy
don't.
moly, he came out of the woodworks to shut it down. So
I've
I never
interviewed
saw the light
John.
of
I
day.
like him. He's an experiencer. But I want to say
Yeah.
about your question, Marquise, is that there's many different types of experience. You talk to Carla Turner, look at what she says. She's no longer
Oh my
around.
gosh, yeah, that was kind of
Awful,
terrifying.
awful,
Right?
torturous stuff. And
Yeah.
then I just met a guy named Chris Bledsoe. I'm sure you know who he
Oh,
is.
we
Where
know. Yeah, we know Chris Bledsoe.
right, where the phenomena cured him. He's seeing things. He saw this divine, holy woman. I mean, to Chris, the phenomena is just angelic, beautiful, uplifting, healing. And to Carla Turner, it's the worst thing that can happen. So even among experiencers, you don't get, a same story. So what's going on there, right?
I think that for me, again, I always refer back to what other minds have said. Like, again, John Keel is probably one of the people that I refer to a lot.
Yeah,
I think that there is a deception. I think
yeah,
that ultimately, when it comes to us, when I think about the idea of benevolence is a very difficult concept, right? The idea that there is a being or intelligences that have all this love for us, and this care, and the idea that it can only do good, a god or a multiple, a civilization, whatever it may be, that it cares for us so much that it wants only nothing but good for us.
mm.
I don't see any of that. The phenomena is not benevolent. Generally, at large, it's
Well,
not.
the phenomena
There
is
are.
one thing or many things. When you say
That's
phenomena,
what I was.
yeah,
The
go
the
ahead.
phenomena that we are generally, I say it at large, the phenomena that we are generally experiencing is not benevolent. There's nothing benevolent about any of it. As a matter of
Mm.
fact, it's mostly deceptive. To tell someone this is what this, I have to be careful, because I have
You
people
should
that I
take a poll on
literally.
this because
Well,
the
the
majority
poll
of the
is.
people that I've talked to have positive or have had a positive trade off in it.
That is that's the problem, Coley. The poll could be skewed. Unfortunately, at least according to the people that have come, that study that was done with the experiencers, the 6,000 people that were
Yeah,
Linda,
the free experiment. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Linda, is it Linda Thompson on Twitter? Linda, I can't remember her last name. I'm so sorry, Linda. If I know you, I've been
Are you
following you
talking
for
about
years.
Tamus?
I don't remember what her last
Tamus?
name is. I'm so upset right now. She actually called that study out. among some people that I will not mention because I respect them. Again, we respect people that we respect people that we don't always agree with.
Right.
Where she called them out and said, "Hey, that study, they actually they altered the results of that study.
Oh,
Most people
really?
did not. Yes, most
Oh,
people. She
you
was involved in
easily
this
done.
study. She was involved in this study. She said that most people had negative experiences. They only focus on the positive ones because of that. They had this new age idea. They didn't want to push what they call the threat narrative. So what they did was they skewed the results of those 6,000 experiencers to only reflect the positive because they didn't want to
Oh,
focus on the negative. So that's that, and this is what somebody who was involved in the research. Now, I believe her. One, not because of my own bias, although I do have one, and I think it's apparent, but because I can see the bias of the people involved in this study and
yeah.
promoting it. It's
Yes.
all, hey, most people have good experiences. Hey, most people do not have good experiences. Most people are terrified. They are powerless. They are
Oh.
helpless. They are controlled. They are manipulated. They are shown things without explanation. They are not. They are left with no explanation. They have semen taken. They have eggs taken. They have over. They are experimented on. They are
Right.
there's where is the most love, light, and happiness? Most people experience terror and fright and I'm not saying I don't want to. This isn't about be
No, but they
afraid.
come
It's
out
about
the
the
other side. Look at
realities.
Whitley Strieber, though, right? Very
I think you
traumatized
should listen to some of his stuff lately. I think you should
lately.
I'm
look at
Well,
some.
feeling
he's
doubly
always
on you,
he's
Marquis.
always changing his mind because at some
Yeah,
point he
yeah.
said it was the best thing that ever happened to him, and the
Well,
other point he said
he said that he
awful.
wouldn't change it for the world because
Right.
of his
I wouldn't
experience
either.
with his
Uh,
late wife. And this is something I spent a lot of time trying because I need to understand why someone would have that experience and not have a why would you think positive? He said he wouldn't change it for the world, but his overall message is that of resistance and not a positive thing. As a matter of fact, if you look at his Twitter feed and some of his later works in the last year, he's had this perspective that says, I don't think that it's a lot of it's not good. As a matter of fact, he's concerned that there is a very nefarious element that is engaging with humanity, which is why I think it's interesting. His latest tagline on his Twitter is, "If I were an intelligent machine, I would deceive you." I think the point is to deliver a message, and the message is, I don't think that they're telling the truth, guys. I don't think that what we're experiencing is at face value what we're
AI, or
experiencing.
what are you saying that
I,
it's
I
AI?
agree. I don't think we're getting the truth, and maybe what Coley
No.
said, I think, is that we don't have the capacity to even understand what the
That
truth
I
is.
agree with. Now that I
So
can jive. Yeah.
I don't know. Even if we heard the truth, would we understand? I mean, would we cognize it? Would we? I mean, maybe it's so far beyond good and evil and this duality and good or bad. It's, I believe it's totally something other. And let's just stay neutral, my
Mm,
suggestion, if you want, until we get more of the facts. And I think Alessandro's doing his best. I have to say that about him to give us
mm,
whatever he is capable of sharing and giving us. Um, so we're like new kids on the block, right? We're like what William James said. We're like dogs and cats in a library looking at the books on the wall, thinking we know what's in there. I mean, or like your dog looking at you on the computer, thinking thinking they know
yeah.
what's going on. It's like
Yeah.
we're in that position of underdevelopment. That's my feeling. And yes, maybe it looks nefarious, and maybe it is. Maybe it's awful, but I think
Mhm.
there is something beyond all that is sort of protecting Earth, hopefully, from our own self-destruction. Besides the ETs, whatever they're up to. Like I saw a video of the sun putting out a solar flare or something, and there was
Yeah.
something that diverted the direction of that solar flare. There was some kind of ship or object there that that
You
really.
know, there's a
So
there's a video, Alan.
yeah, yeah,
I gotta share it, but real quick.
yeah.
I'm so sorry
Please,
for interrupting.
no,
Um,
please.
there was this video of, and I thought this was funny, but also interesting, relevant to the conversation. There was a cow. It was floating along this. I don't know what they're called, but in the city they have those. They have the water runoffs where the water will drain through the
Yeah,
city so it doesn't flood it. And this
yeah.
cow got stuck in flood water down this pathway, and then a forklift or whatever, I don't know, those big machines came and they like scooped it
Yeah,
out, and they laid it on the ground, and it was like beautiful music playing, and they were like, oh, it's like, I was like, that's such a wholesome moment. And then
it is.
instantly they cut to the cow being cooked on the grill.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
kind of and
well,
I thought
that's
to my, oh no,
that's
because
the
in my
whole.
mind that's
I
what I
don't
thought.
know, but somehow I do think human beings are important in this. Maybe like cows, but I don't know.
Not
But
I for the record, I do not believe they want to eat our flesh. I do
no.
think they're invested in our soul, though. Consciousness, whatever
Well,
that
it's,
means. I don't know positive. I'm just saying, I don't know positive or negative. I just
the
mean, I think that.
archons are definitely present. I mean, I just think there's. I mean, I've seen, like angry people or depressed people. Or even people addicted to certain substance. There's something that takes them over. That is a non-physical force. You can see it. Like all alcoholics start to look like the entity, or cocaine addicts or heroin addicts. Like they take on the features of these beings that are not material. And well, that's a whole separate thing from what I think the ETs and the craft in the sky are, because the universe is much more complex. I mean, this is the simplest dimension, and
Mm,
there's radio waves. There's so many frequencies in this space and just going on, that we're very simple organisms thinking, oh yeah, this 3D reality is all there is. That's a very simple way of looking at
mm,
it. And it's so vast and so intricate,
mm.
and it's exciting. That's why I'm still excited, even though you're throwing out all this stuff, which is
Well,
true.
I just I wanted to I gotta get when I meet someone, when I finally get a chance to talk to people that, to be honest, Alan, I don't think you probably you don't know anything about me aside from the fact that I do the show and stuff like that. I I love your work. I love what you're doing. I really respect and appreciate you as a figure in this field. And I've been having a lot more of these moments, especially with Coley, but a lot more of them in the last year, where I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking to these people. This is amazing. I have to bounce these things I've been wondering, and
Yeah,
I wanted
no,
to
I
ask
want
you,
to hear your side, because I don't want to stay attached to what I know. I want to expand into dimensions of reality, as Polly says
oh
there.
my god, like, thank you. That's my so thank you, Ellen.
Yeah,
Let's change. Let me change this. Let me change a
yeah,
Full
little bit now.
please.
circle.
Let's talk about a
Yeah.
different aspect now. So,
Wait,
not
wait, can I
necessarily
just
just
ask you a question, Marquis? Where are you
yes, sir.
located? Where are
Pennsylvania,
you?
Pennsylvania,
Oh, which part?
right by Penn State University, like
Oh,
20 minutes
okay.
from Penn State, 20 minutes
Okay.
from
I'm
Penn
in New
State.
York. And where are you, Coley?
I'm in Iowa.
All right. All right. I just want to know how. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Ask me. Let's change topic. Go ahead. Go for it, Marquis.
So let's get a little bit more on the positive side of things, because I am curious about another element of the whole phenomena.
Yeah.
So there is a belief that, and I'm gonna again, this is I spitballing ideas to get your perspective.
Okay.
There is a belief that the phenomena is essentially a reflection, is a manifestation of our consciousness
Hmm.
trying to tell us, hey, there's something else going on. The
Yes.
fear, the terror, all those things are just ways of waking us up. They're not
Yes.
bad, or they just ways of like shocking us
Right.
into waking up and seeing that there's something else. What do you think about that?
Well, this is, you read Matthew Roberts' book, Initiate, I think it's called.
Initiate. Let me
Yeah.
just double check to make sure that, yeah, the initiate. I think
Matthew
it's, or initiate.
Roberts, he said, he was full of fear, and these things would haunt him, and they'd come in, they'd shake up and destroy his life and until he made peace with it. And then it was sort of like bliss. And I mean, the phenomena was a pure reflection of his own projections of fear and hopelessness and all that, until
Right.
he changed his own way of thinking, and the phenomena change. So I think consciousness itself is self-reflective, and this thing, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it is a form of consciousness that is definitely seems to be reflecting everything we are, but to the extreme.
Do you
So
think that it's us though? Do you think that that humanity, is essentially trying to, on some level, you talk on the consciousness level, trying to wake up the part of us that's on this physical plane, the three dimensions,
Well,
one time dimension. Are we trying to wake us up to something else to get us to evolve, or whatever that I don't whatever
well,
that
it's as
means?
us as much as you're me. I mean, our minds are joined. So like we can, we're there's a oneness here of
Mm,
of being, of consciousness. So, and yet, you're separate, I'm separate. I get together with friends that are similar. Like
right.
we're just looking at it as very physical, where it's really an energetic, conscious vibe, as you said, that
Yeah.
is what reality really is. I mean, that is reality. It's not like when you say like you can change your reality. You may not like change the mountains out there, but I think Bashar says reality is not what's there. It's how you feel about what's out there. It comes down to the feeling level. So um, this thing seems to reflect us and our good and worse things, and it's a very personal thing. So yeah, I do believe that's closer to what is possible with this phenomena. That yeah, it's awful, but human beings are awful, right? Human
Right.
beings traumatize other human beings, and they do
Yeah.
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 100%.
probably more than whatever this phenomena is. So let's make peace with ourselves, with each other, in the most drastic way possible, and maybe the whole phenomenon will shift itself, because there is this Kripal says this, Whitley sort of says this. I mean, I saw Whitley gave a speech, a talk at this place up in New York, and at the end, someone asked him a question about the visitors, and I saw, and I told this to him. I said, Whitley, I saw your eyes turn silver as if you were one of those beings. And he
Mhm.
goes to me, don't tell anyone that. And just recently said it's okay to talk about that. So that's why I'm sharing this. So we may be those beings. So and the issues we have with ourselves, I don't know. It's very abstract, and I can't even say that I believe that. But
It's a potential. I think
what you
anything
just
is, right?
what you just said as being reflection of us, I think it somehow makes the most sense. And there's this force out there separate from us, and trying to manipulate us, and it is trying to do that. But
Mm.
of
But
course,
for yeah.
what,
So you
what
don't do you just to kind of you think that it may be more likely that it's a force separate from us as we are separate from ourselves, or vice versa, it is as connected to us as we are to each other, but still somehow independent of our control, that is
independent,
trying
but
to.
more intimate,
Oh,
like it
far more.
knows our
Yeah, far
thoughts,
more. Yeah.
far
So
more intimate. And but yet we have free will. I think we do. I mean, they can implant images in our brains, but we have to question those images. So we have the
that's the issue.
capacity
Right.
to rise beyond the manipulation. Yeah, I definitely think we are being manipulated. Like there's that great talk with Gary Nolan talking about this family seeing these objects in the sky, and it was nothing.
Right. Above the
Right,
car, and it was
right,
they
right.
took a picture of it, and it was
We
nothing.
watch the
Yeah.
same podcast. Yeah. So what do we? And everyone's talking about manipulation. All the people I respect are saying, and
Well, the
maybe,
question is it manipulation, or is it perception? Because you
or
mentioned
is
this
it
earlier.
for our own good? And maybe it's like they're manipulating us, because if they didn't, who knows? But I don't know. It could be perception. It could be manipulation. It could be. We're calling it manipulation because that's what humans do to other humans.
Well, we can call it I wouldn't say coercion either. It's essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
We could call it social engineering.
But this is what we're only looking at, again, in human terms. And what if it's none of that, and we're just giving it those anthropomorphized labels, because that's how advertising is manipulation, business is manipulation, all these
Well,
things are
but if you think about it from a
Subliminal
descriptive
dissemination.
perspective, if you think about it from a
yes,
descriptive perspective, the question is, if we were to describe what is happening, right?
yeah,
There is an intelligent force that is projecting images and thoughts into our minds for a
Yeah.
specific purpose that we are unaware of, but it seems to be aware of.
Yes.
It is doing things intentionally. It is doing
Yeah.
things in a very again, with intelligence means that there's a plan of some kind, or some kind of
Yes. Yes.
control. They are, as Jacques Vallée says, there's a control mechanism that's being
Yes.
implemented into society. Now, that idea, that term is descriptive. It's not necessarily anthropomorphized, except to the person hearing the word control
Right.
mechanism or
But
whatever.
But I think you're onto something by saying just stating the facts. They are projecting things into our mind. We're seeing things, and just let's state the facts without the duality of
Labeling
label
it.
good or bad. And if we could just stay with laying out all the things we know without trying to pin it, then I think we'll have a much clearer picture to make a judgment, because all we're doing is making a judgment, and we don't have to do it because we don't know enough about what's going on. This is what it appears to be, but I think there's more sophisticated people who have understood the phenomena better. Maybe they're enlightened masters. Who knows? But
I saw a sci-fi. I relate a lot of my understandings to science fiction. I
yeah,
think it's probably one of the greatest teachers of all time is science fiction, in my opinion. There is a TV show called Love, Death, and Robots.
mhm.
I encourage everyone to watch that immediately. There's this one episode where, and I'm going to spoil it, so
That's okay.
hashtag
I'm not gonna
spoiler
watch
alert. There's this one episode. It's pretty intense. It's very graphic, and it's not PG-13. There's this one episode where a group of scientists, they're futuristic, exploring the universe, and they end up the one scientist or astronaut or whatever. They end up crashing, and then he finds his landing. I'm sorry, at this one port, and they find that he finds his lover that he saw in another squadron or quadrant of the universe. And he's like, how did you get here? And she's, very sweet and kind and loving, and she's welcoming, and she gets him to essentially fall back in love with her, and they make love together, and they have a moment, and then all of a sudden he repeats this day, and something just doesn't seem right to him, and he doesn't know why, but something seems off. And ultimately he finds out, to his dismay, that this is a creature that is keeping him alive, but by giving him pleasant thoughts and loving thoughts, because he's dying. And he's dying very slowly and very painfully through starvation and deprivation and all these, and thirst and things. It's not good. The death that he experiences is so terrible that this being cares and loves for him, but the being is a very grotesque creature, and it somehow has empathy, because many humans end up at this part of the universe, and it feels bad for us, so terrible that everyone that comes there ultimately dies, because there's no end, there's no way to get out of it. And it gets stuck, unfortunately, in this web, this big net that is cast by this creature. It's an organism that accidentally captures people, and they die in it.
Right.
That is, in my mind, the kind of thing that I think would be the best case scenario. That's some.
I'm not getting trapped down here again. I don't care.
I think we're
It's
trapped
like
in this fourth
trapping us.
dimension.
Oh,
I
here
think
we
that
go.
we
yeah.
are no. I think that we are essentially stuck in this very terrible, this third dimension, fourth dimension time. It's not good here. We're suffering constantly.
Come on, it's okay. I mean, it's not good in some ways, but don't you enjoy some of it? Don't you like ice cream?
I am the happiest
I just
I've
don't
ever
want to
been.
go through
First of all,
it again.
wait, hold on.
That's all.
I am
So-
the happiest. I am the happiest I've ever been in my life, but not everyone in the world is.
I
And
know
I
not
think that's
everyone
a
is,
bad
but let's start with you. You've made peace with it, and you're kind of happy at this moment.
I'm
right?
very happy. I'm extremely happy.
Well-
I'm lucky and blessed, or whatever you want to call it.
What? There you
Um,
go. So that was
Yeah.
maybe your creation. It just wasn't like something that happened. You focused and you created it, which is fantastic.
I tend to have I actually went to therapy for a while because of this. I still have to go back to therapy because I had stopped going for a while. But I tend to look at the
I
suffering
got
of,
out
of,
of
of
therapy
many
because
others.
of this. Yeah.
Well, I tend to look at the suffering of most people and say, how dare I not look at this? I
Right.
need to see this, because they are suffering, and if more people care, they wouldn't be. And so when I see that, and I see how there are people that lack empathy for those people, there are people that want some people to suffer and die because they just don't like them, and
Right.
and they perpetuate the
Yeah.
suffering and
But
of other people.
you know,
And so
you're
to me,
evolved. Your consciousness has evolved, so you have this feeling of oneness that you don't like to see people. So that's an evolution of humanity that a lot of the planet doesn't have. So you're coming into a place where you can enjoy yourself. You can sit back and say, "Wow, this feels good." I mean, yes, of course, there's suffering, and you're compassionate, and we're here to be compassionate, but you want to shine your light as much as possible because that actually also uplifts others. So forget ETs. We're
right.
here to help evolve each other to the best possible place. And yeah, if there's ETs or not, let's make the best of ourselves and what other people are doing. Let's help other people too. So then something will shift, ETs or not. Don't you think so?
So that's
With the election coming up, I think we're screwed, Alan, to be
I
honest
don't
with
know. I don't know.
that.
You
Maybe
could pay
like
attention to it, and
after the next
you
2 years,
you can
we
give
might be okay. But
energy to those things, but you know, does it really
I'm just saying,
change?
people wise. So
I
it's
know, but it's
division.
another drama that sucks people in. I'm
hold
not saying.
yeah.
Oh
Hold on one
yeah.
second before we get into the
Uh, oh yeah,
politics. Um,
I didn't say there was.
hold
I
on
just
one
say
second.
it's a
right.
divisive
So
force. Yeah.
here's my take. I actually did.
Yeah.
I was a voice actor. I still am. But I'm not solely a voice actor anymore because AI is essentially taking over that field. But I was a voice actor for a couple years, and I did a piece once. I'll share it with you after the show here. I'll send it in the chat. But I did a piece where I wrote this story about a girl named Amelia and a boy named Ahmed. And they are in two completely different places in the world. Ahmed is in a war-torn area, and Amelia is in a very American-esque, or if you will, maybe Britain or something like that, where she's very well taken care of. She has a nice room. She's got a play set, and she's got teddy bears all over her room, and she's got a colored bed sheets, and she's got a vanity, and she's got all these, and she's got her whole family is together, and everyone loves her, and they treat her with kindness and love and compassion. Whereas Ahmed is literally, digging his family members out of the rubble of this war torn area. And the Amelia discovers that there is a boy named Ahmed that is going through this situation, and it completely stops her in her tracks. Her life is never going to be the same. She can no longer just enjoy her life. She wants to, but she can't just enjoy. Now she feels compelled to wake the rest of us up to say, hey, look, we are happy, but we can't stand for those people not being at least okay and not being at least, able to just live their life. This is unfair. This is not right. And we shouldn't just ignore that so we can be happy. And ultimately, this story plays out to where Amelia tries to tell her family and her friends and her school, hey, listen, there's this other thing happening on another part of the world where other people are suffering. I think we should be aware of it and we should do something about it. I want to take action. And they all chastise her, and they make her feel like she is this fear monger and someone who's just wants this negativity spread among her very happy and oblivious peers. And her parents and her elders are like, why do you even care? You look at your life, you're happy. And she just cannot accept that. And just like the story is not complete, but I remember the book about Buddha and how one of the Siddhartha, Gautama Buddha, or Siddhartha, I'm sorry, he leaves his riches to go live a life of poverty because he saw the poor suffering, and he wanted to find a way to overcome it. I think that is where we need to be within ourselves versus experiencing the happiness, embrace the suffering, not just to suffer, but so that we can see that there's others doing so too.
I think we are here to help the suffering, but it's not to deny, let's say you, Marquis, your happiness now. If you deny it, that's one less person being happy. But as a more of a functional person, you can help others from that place of happiness and not bring yourself down, but lift those others up from just your being, your vibe, your positivity. And yeah, we're here. Like, that's the vow of the Bodhisattva. You're not enlightened until everyone is enlightened. So yeah, we're connected to each other. And if someone is suffering, there's a part of us that's suffering, and we, yeah, help the homeless, feed the hungry. I mean, there's lots of people I give money to on the streets, and some I don't for whatever reason. But
Right. Yeah.
we don't live in a vacuum of our own, like,
No.
bliss, content. But it's not. But you're not here to deny also what you have for you, which is helping to raise the vibration of the collective also. So you don't have to be depressed because other people are depressed.
Whoa. I would never suggest. I think it
No,
more
but I think
the feeling that I think is compelled to help, not
Yeah, of
depressed
course.
to, and
No,
with
we are
yeah.
compelled to help because we are that person who is suffering. We are that person
right.
too. Yeah.
I like
You know, therapy 101 is if you can't help yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So you have to take care of yourself first before you
But
can
that's the
properly
duality.
care for somebody else.
That's the duality of
But
human existence. You know
there's
what?
nothing, I guess I look at it, there's nothing wrong of taking care of your needs and yourself, and you don't have to suffer because you think someone down the street, because there's suffering all around us. But
Yeah.
like the pendulum swings, unfortunately that's how we gauge it. So it's okay to take care of yourself also, is the way I look at it.
That's why I went to therapy, because
Yeah.
clearly my focus has been more on the suffering of humanity versus my own, and I'm actually personally tormented by the fact that we don't look at we don't we when I can't say what, because there's too much animus towards, and people are very very biased about from their perspectives, but I saw something, and when I heard the commentary about that thing, I felt sick. I cannot believe that there are people who see other people as less human than them.
Right.
And I did not like the fact that my peers and those around me were not only okay, but they supported the idea of seeing others as less human than themselves. And as a matter of fact, in America alone, there is a large portion of the population that thinks that some are less human than others. And I am concerned about that personally. And you talk about raising the vibration. I believe it is my duty as a human being, fellow human being who's looking at this, to put a mirror up to those who do not see that and say, look, can you see that this is you? How does that feel? How
Right.
does that feel?
No, that's great. No, you're absolutely right. Once you demonize other people and make them less than human, it's okay to kill them and do whatever you want because they're not human. So I don't think we're here to demonize anyone, make them less. I mean, I totally agree with you. Everyone, we're really all the same. We all have Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication says we all have the
Oh,
same
yeah.
needs and feelings. We all have the same needs and feelings. And when you ask someone for directions on the street, if you're lost, they're more than happy to give you directions because you're meeting their need to give back. People have a need to give love as opposed to just receive it. So yeah, once we understand communication, who we are and what needs and feelings, then we're not going to look at people as less than, because they're not any different than us. They're just different education, different background, different
Yeah.
upbringing. But that's the thing with the Middle East. Those countries fight, they're the same. They've just an ideology that separates them, or religions in general. There's just like a belief system that separates people. So
Yeah.
I'm
Do
not
you
saying,
mind?
yeah,
Do
go
you
ahead.
mind spending a little bit more time with us,
Yeah,
answer some
let's do
questions?
one more round and then I
Okay,
have to go.
and then we're
Yeah.
done with that.
Oh,
There's a
awesome.
doctor.
Thank you,
I want to
Alan.
talk. I want to
Yeah.
mention Dr. Emoto when we come back from the break.
Oh, yeah.
I believe the Japanese scientist who did this
Yeah.
experiment with water and the
Yes.
symmetrical crystals. And so when we come back, we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about how we can raise the vibration, because we spend a lot of time on all these. I really want to delve into like that. How do we raise the vibration of humanity? How do we raise the
Okay.
vibration within the UFO community? How do we come together and work together? How should we see each other in the UFO community? Because ultimately, I think that the biggest question in human existence is, are we alone in the universe? The questions: are we alone in the universe? And what happens to us after we die? So when we come back, We're going to talk about those things. So, ladies and gentlemen, hang tight. We will be right back after the very last break of the night.
Thank you.
Hang tight, y'all. Thank you.
As the night falls and the stars align, Coley Marquis Show takes us on a ride through the cosmos, the unknown, where mysteries of the universe are shown. Questions arise, curiosity grows. Are we alone? Only time knows. UFOs, aliens, paranormal sights. Experts share their knowledge under the lights. Did the government recover a crashed UFO? Or alien bodies hidden, where do they go? Sean Mack's alien agenda. Is it right? Will the truth finally come to light? Secrets of the universe unfold in a facility where the truth's been told. Conspiracies and cover-ups entwine. As we search for answers, will we find? In the shadows, the truth awaits. UFOs, aliens, paranormal sights. Experts share their knowledge under the lights. Did the government recover a crashed UFO? Or alien bodies hidden, where do they go? Sean Mack's alien agenda. Is it right? Will the truth finally come to light? Secrets of the universe unfold in a facility where the truth's been told. Conspiracies and cover-ups entwine. As we search for answers, will we find? In the shadows, the truth awaits. In the shadows, the truth awaits. UFOs, aliens, paranormal sights. Experts share their knowledge under the lights. Did the government recover a crashed UFO? Or alien bodies hidden, where do they go? Sean Mack's alien agenda. Is it right? Will the truth finally come to light? As the night falls and the stars align, Coley Marquis Show takes us on a ride through cosmos, the unknown, when mysteries of the universe are shown. Questions arise, curiosity grows. Are we alone? Only time knows. UFOs, aliens, paranormal sights. Experts share their knowledge under the lights. Did the government recover a crashed UFO? Or alien bodies hidden, where do they go? Sean Mack's alien agenda. Is it right? Will the truth finally come to light? Secrets of the universe unfold in a facility where the truth's been told. Conspiracies and cover-ups entwine. As we search for answers, will we find? In the shadows, the truth awaits. UFOs, aliens, paranormal sights. Experts share their knowledge under the lights. Did the government recover a crashed UFO? Or aliens?
Guys, ladies and gentlemen, tell me if you can hear me. Guys, this is so crazy. I don't know why this keeps happening to me. I lost power. There is a massive storm going on outside right now. So if you can hear me, I am so sorry, guys. I have completely lost that. I kind of got power back just now. Chat, can you see me? Can you hear me? Can everybody hit me up in the chat? Let me know if I'm back live. I don't know. Why does this happen to Why does this keep happening to us, guys? Come on, guys. Radio, Helix Rock Radio. If you're listening, we are back live. Sorry about the introduction, everyone. I'm sorry, the interruption. If you have questions for our guest, Alan Steinfeld, please post them in the chat. I would really appreciate that in all caps. If you're on Facebook, same thing. We can see your comments as well. Post them in all caps, please. Thank you for the love. Of course, on Twitch, if you have questions, they should show up also in the chat. Just they'll show up in a different color for me on this end. But yeah, like I said, we're gonna bring Alan back on. We'll get Coley back as soon as we can. But Alan, can you hear me?
Yes. Thanks. Hey.
So Alan, I lost power. I don't know if
I know I heard that.
Okay,
But
okay.
you seem fine now. You have the power back. The power's in you. You
The
got
power is with I got the power, brother. I sent a Facebook message here or the video in our group chat there. Yeah, I completely lost like everything just turned off, and I'm like, oh no, is that somebody messing with me? I thought one of the kids was playing around. But Coley, you with us, Coley? Let's see.
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to get this.
I have there has been a series of like weird technological occurrences in my
But we wouldn't know that unless you told us. I mean, isn't it strange that
it
was
is.
I mean, like you could have fabricated the whole thing. I mean, I'm sure you didn't. But
No, I want this to be smooth and sound good. I want to be professional. I want to have a great
well,
time.
it does. It's all those things. It's everything.
All the,
Yeah, absolutely.
everything,
But
everywhere, all at once.
exactly.
So, which, by the way, have you seen that movie?
I have.
Everything
I
All at
liked
Once.
it. It was yeah, I often use that to describe what we're really going on. Can I read you a quote from this guy,
Please.
Grinsberg, that may I don't know if it'll make us understand anything. He says the reality we perceive is our brain decoding of what is unmanifested infinite unity. So what we're seeing is a kind of labeling infinite space. It's
Mm,
like he says it's the tip of the wave of a great ocean of, let's call, consciousness. But we mistake this as the primary thing. No, what we're seeing and experiencing is just the tip of something. um it's like the surface, looking at the surface of an ocean. We're not realizing that there's an ocean there, and we're just seeing the surface, and we think, oh, that's all there is. It's just the surface. We don't realize that we're part, that our perception is as deep as the view we're looking at. This is
mm.
this Mexican guy, Grinsberg. So do you know what I'm saying? This physical
Yeah.
world,
So why
everything
don't you
everywhere.
like what's with your disconnect with Donald Hoffman? Because
Oh, yeah,
yeah, he suggests that the idea isn't that evolution, that our perceptions through evolution is like it's conducive to our survival, but
right.
not conducive to perceiving reality, the true nature of reality. That's
Well,
what I've
no,
gotten.
I understand. I like a lot. I shouldn't say I don't like Donald. I like a lot of what he says, but there's something he started to talk about with Darwinian theory and evolution. I think he's saying that perception doesn't give us the view of the ultimate reality, which is true, but it does give us a view of the physical world, which makes it easier to survive, right? So he's
Yeah,
saying it
that's what.
doesn't. He says perception doesn't ensure survival. I say it does. The greater perception, the more we see what's in the environment. Doesn't he
I
say
think
that?
he I think he so from what I understand, he and we are I am definitely dipping my toes into
No, because I
territory that
haven't
I'm not.
really listened to him. Also, no,
So I've spent a lot of time listening. So this is what I've gathered from
yeah,
his ideas. He seems to think that evolution, perception through evolution, how our perceptions have evolved through evolution, it has essentially taken us away from and is actively preventing us from seeing the true nature of reality, and that we have to essentially transcend our perceptions through mindful practices and meditation, and you talked about shamanic practices, things like that, to see the true nature of reality. He mentioned in one of his conversations, I believe, with the theory of evolution, Kurt Mongol, in the beginning of our conversation in the chat, someone mentioned this. He said that he talked about this idea that we would be able to like what if we could, through merging science, technology, and consciousness, we
mhm.
could find a way to transmit ourselves from another point of the universe instantaneously. No waiting, no travel with gasoline or jet fuel or
But
anything.
we do that with consciousness. That's what consciousness is. I can transmit,
That's what he talks about. That's what
but
his ideas essentially are
I,
ultimately
I
kind of
there
getting
was
to.
some. Yeah, there was something that kind of
He
I didn't quite agree with. I do agree with what you're saying, though.
It could be
Um,
my take. Yeah, he
no,
does
no,
explicitly say that so that he kind of, and this is what the objection to a lot of his work is, that he thinks that our perceptions are a problem, that
yeah.
they are in the way of us not just perceiving the true nature of reality, but achieving a level of awareness that can push humanity towards things we can't even imagine.
Well,
That
he's too.
perception is the problem.
I think he's too identified with the physical. I don't think perception is a problem. I think it's a gift of consciousness, and of course, yeah, I think he doesn't have this spiritual edge that I maybe I don't have it either, but he just makes it all reduced to a physical sensation, and perception is much more connected to the infinite consciousness
Right.
than just existence. So I think perception is to show us what the physical world is, but not to get caught up. That's the only thing there is. I think this is where
Yeah.
Hoffman doesn't go far enough.
I
From,
think what you so his scientific the data and research that he conducts on this along with his colleagues, it does talk a lot about the physical. So they study physical characteristics of this other this other, I don't know, sense, if you
Yeah.
will. I'm using that sense as my own word, not his. That is able to that is able to see the true nature of reality. That there's a physical manifestation that we can measure it, we can see it, we can it's not something that's imperceptible to
Mhm.
all of our technology. It's something that's just so subtle that we need specific instruments, technological advancements to perceive that
No,
that
we
that
don't. We have this non-local facility when I teach
oh,
remote viewing. Actually, his conversation with Rupert Spira. Did you see that one? That's a really
I'm not sure. Let me
look
see.
for
Hold
that
on. Let
one
me just.
because they're talking around this idea of non-local conscious,
Yeah.
what I call metacognition or
Okay.
non-local cognition,
I have not seen
which
that.
is
I have not
which
seen that one. Now I got it something to do tonight. Thank you.
they're not actually naming it like the way I'm naming it. They said, "What if there was this thing?" And I'm yelling from my computer. You mean remote metacognition, or the ability to perceive beyond the physical senses, which SRI, Stanford Research Institute, has proven, and along with other psychics, mediums, whatever, prove that we have senses that are non-local to the body. And Hoffman is ignoring, or maybe he's not aware of that possibility. So he's leaving this whole realm of human consciousness out of his picture. And if he included that, then he'd have a complete, I feel,
Wait,
what do I
he does. He
understand?
talks about the same techniques and the same abilities. He just refers to them from a very, very uh sorry, that was the thunder. But he speaks about it from a very, I don't want to say carnal, from the
Yeah,
physicality of things,
physical.
right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I think that we're talking about that he's talking about the same thing you are, but from a very scientific and a physical
I, but
perspective.
I think he's starting from a different place. There's two places to start from when you're talking about consciousness. These are discussions I have with Deepak Chopra. You can say that the physical organism evolved from nothing and created through its development this thing called consciousness. Or you can say there was this thing called consciousness that stepped
Which
itself
one came
down
first?
into
Which one
physical
came
matter.
first?
Right. So I think Hoffman's coming from physical matter first, and I'm coming from non-physical matter.
I'm not so sure that's the
Well,
case, but now I got
maybe,
something to think about. We can
no,
have a
maybe
part two.
you're right because
Yeah.
he turned me. I kind of got turned off because it was a little
There's gotta be
limited.
something that you heard. There's gotta be something you heard that really turned you off from me.
But I'm
So
not saying I wanted to interview him. I wanted to talk to him about some of the things that I wanted to ask him about. So yeah, no, I'm glad you're bringing him up because it puts it back on the radar that I definitely want to talk to him because he thinks Darwinian evolution. He's relying on that, and if you listen to Bruce Lipton, evolution is not a chance mutation. This is Darwin saying evolution is intent to evolve the species to a greater point of being. And what Darwin says, no, evolution is a chance mutation where that mutation becomes a benefit to the species, but mutations usually don't. So I'm looking at it from a Lamarckian point of view, which was a kind of counter to Darwin, where there's no chance. I mean, Darwinian thinking says that life is a freak of nature. Life evolved from protoplasms that was struck by lightning that somehow were able to reproduce, and
amino
I,
acids and
that seems a little ridiculous considering,
sounds.
you
I
know,
agree. I agree.
and this is just Darwinian. I don't know if Hoffman. I like him; he's a nice guy, but I would like to talk to him because you're right. I need to study it more. I think you have some good points there, but yeah.
There's another idea that I think. So you're saying that from your perspective, conscious. So this is really interesting. I want to tie this to something else too. So we are conscious. We are consciousness first,
I think
and
so.
then this physical world, this physical reality, this body, this brain, consciousness. This body and brain have come from consciousness, not the other way around.
I
Our consciousness isn't something that emerged from physical
Well,
evolution.
how do
It's the
you
exact
explain
opposite.
exactly? How would you explain out of body experiences, which I've had, I think, and near death experiences where there's total, like Eben Alexander, total brain dead, and yet there's this
I have a theory.
functioning.
I have a
Oh, I
theory.
want to hear your theory, but there's a
Yeah.
functioning of awareness. Yeah, some theories, let me just guess, it's like they remember it after the fact, but at the time, what do you think?
So there, I remember reading about subatomic particles and quantum quantum entanglement and things like that. The philosophy. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. I think of it from a layman's perspective. But I remember reading about that and thinking, and it spent years trying to understand a lot of those concepts. One of the major ones that I did kind of grasp was the idea that essentially reality at the core of reality is an energy, it's information, and that this information permeates all of existence, literally everything. It's not disconnected, it's all connected, and that we have somehow through whether it be our DNA or maybe even through this on a subatomic level been able to bring some of that information to a conscious level. The way that we perceive it is that from a because when we have these psychic experiences, there's a psychic who, when she had these experiences, she had them as if she was living the life
Right.
of the person she was channeling, or she was in the body of the person that the person who was passed, but she wasn't. She was here with us, but channeling that experience. I think
Right.
that is what we're experiencing. I think this near death experience, these past life experiences, in my opinion, not a fact. I believe that people are tapping into information from either as ancestors, or they're tapping into information that is non-local, but it's perceived as if it is them. I do not believe. I am not convinced by past lives. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. I am
Well,
convinced by the sharing of information at a fundamental level of reality. I think that information is making itself available to us on a conscious level and presenting itself as if we are living those experiences.
no, I agree with that. Joe Dispenza talks about the quantum field. You've heard, his work, right, Joe
Yes, yes,
Dispenza?
yes. Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
So this
This
quantum
is this
field,
is
but it's all where our consciousness is not physical. It's part of the quantum field. Like maybe memory itself is in the
right.
field, but not in the brain. Just like I use the example of a radio, right? You open up the radio, you're not going to find, the Beatles playing there or the announcer. It's just a receiver. Your brain is just a receiver of the signal that happens to be your frequency everywhere all the time, all at once. Because like a radio signal, it's everywhere all the time if it's a strong enough signal. So we are the essence of who we are is the signal being picked up by these local receivers. But who we essentially are, maybe it's a whole different point than you're making, is not the receiver. We have these receivers, but that's not us. Does that fit
So
what you were saying?
that does it. I agree with you. This is
Yeah.
a big. So there is this other concept related to this here that, and I need to get your opinion here on
Yeah.
this. So okay, so uh, hold on. Let me see how I want to say this properly. I don't want to
Yeah.
say this the wrong way.
Okay.
But the neurology. Okay, I read a book about neuroscience and neuropsychology and how to change your brain and the new
Yeah.
agey type stuff, if you will.
You're right.
But one of the things that I learned from that book was from a couple of these books, but one of the things that was persistent in all of them, there was a common thread that your memory, you talked about memory, it not being something that's local to the brain. You
Right.
are not, that memories are not stored in your brain. They're being recreated through these electrical signals. They're literally recreating those memories. The way that we are seeing the world and our perceptions are literally the neurons are firing off in ways that are creating these
Yeah.
images, these impressions within our mind.
Right.
But they don't stay there. They are recreated at will. We are recalling them. Literally, we're recreating those memories through neurological or these signals, these electrical signals in our brain. So to your point, I agree. I think that's correct. I personally believe that our memories are not local, that we are just pulling them from, if you will, the ether, from the other dimension or whatever it may be, from a field from this energetic field. Now, in that Reddit post, do you remember? In that Reddit post, there is this belief from the scientists where they say that these beings believe that we have that when creatures on a planet have reached a precipice, a point at which there is so much of them that they create a new a new thing, consciousness. They create consciousness within these beings when they hit a certain number of them on this planet, a number of life itself, all of it, the diversity itself. That our consciousness is a byproduct of a mass precipice, this hitting of this precipice, and that there's this energetic field that is created at that point. I don't know how to visualize that.
Oh, I get it. When there's enough of a collective, it creates something that becomes the consciousness field. I mean,
That's what's in that paper on that Reddit post by that scientist. He said the beings believe that they claim that's what we are. This planet is special because somehow the nature of the universe, this existence, we have hit that point a long time ago where consciousness emerged. It emerged from this excess in biological life on this
but
planet.
it may have emerged other planets too that hit that same sort of.
That's the suggestion. That's the suggestion.
But getting back to your first point, if there's this conscious field where our memories are a part of, couldn't past life memories also be in that consciousness field?
I would think. Well, the one thing that gets me is why do we keep? There are 8 billion people on this planet. There are more people that have died than are alive today. Where are all
Right.
where are these minds coming from? Where is all this consciousness coming from? I think that more likely, in my opinion, is that all of this information is there, and that there are new consciousnesses that are emerging, and we are tapping into that consciousness, the past information that's left behind. There's these after images, if you will, these impressions. The information is always there. It doesn't die. It's still there, and then we are tapping into it, and we're recalling it sometimes. I think
That could be. That could be. I mean, I did have a past life regression. I don't know if I'm making up these stories from there, but
I think it's real. I just don't know what it means. I don't want to take from you. I'm not taking anything from you, by the way.
No. I'm not a fan. I don't care. No, I don't know if it's real either, because the memories or the places I was seeing these images wasn't a memory. It's like a regression. You ever have a abduction regression where you see you're not actually remembering the regression because you weren't actually present to begin with, because your mind was altered. So you're not remembering like you remembered what you did yesterday. This is my feeling about regressions for abduction. So it's hard to remember something that you were detached from because you weren't really experiencing it in the way that we're consciously experiencing this conversation. So how do you remember something you're really not conscious of experiencing is my issue with the abduction. And so, but in the abduction regression that I did have, images did come to me that seemed to be coming from not a memory, but from another place of awareness. Just like my past life regression back to World War II and the concentration camps, which was not a picnic, came to me in that same way. I don't know if that's true either. So I think that there's a part of us that is immortal, that is forever. So I think, like a radio that maybe it breaks, this doesn't mean the signal has stopped. You pick up a new radio, turn it to the same station, and you get the same signal. The signal, we are the signal, we're not the radio. So the radio, it's a different radio, but it's the same signal that's forever broadcasting your frequency of your soul's signature, if you want it. That's my feeling. So that's the forever moment. And then we pick up bodies. Maybe we're ETs in one lifetime, or different races, religions, sexes, it all changes. But the signal is the same. The essence of the signal is the same. The energy is not just created or destroyed. It just changes form.
Transformed.
So that's my theory. I don't know if that's true. I can't prove it. There are a lot of work. Ian Stevenson did work. He was researching past lives and showing that children who had born with certain scars or marks, beauty mark or birthmarks, somehow remembered a lifetime where they were suffered some injury where those birthmark appears. That could be a good excuse for it, or it could be real. I don't know, but I do think that other lives do exist, because even in sleep, even in dreaming, we're having these other experiences on these other worlds. Because I don't think it's all psychology. It's not what Freud said or other It's
Oh
not just,
man,
oh, we are
right.
going places. We're having
Yeah.
real experiences, and they're not in this physical reality, but it's happening to
Shouldn't
us
there
right?
shouldn't there be 150 billion people alive today?
There's many, many more souls that they don't all incarnate here on Earth. There's so many dimensions and realities to incarnate into. I mean, you could graduate from this plane and go to another plane. So it's not based on people who have died. I mean, you could live on another planet. Why not?
Mm.
There's so much life in this cosmos. Doesn't mean you have to be reincarnated here. This is one of billions of possible incarnations you can have, and you may even have parallel incarnations. So, yeah, I mean,
That's a
there's
good explanation. That's the first time anybody's ever explained that to me.
well,
Yeah,
of course. I mean, there's so much life out there. You probably have incarnated on another planet. I remember you from another planet. No, I'm kidding.
seriously. I'm like, well, hold on a second, man, because I don't know. So that's the interesting thing to me is when I encounter these concepts that I'm not totally familiar with. Nobody ever really has an explanation for some of them. That was the first time anybody's ever given me some at
Well,
least an explanation of
doesn't
what
it
that
make
could be.
sense though?
It
Doesn't
does,
that
that does make sense, which is why
make
I appreciate that. I
I'm not
appreciate that.
saying it's true. It just makes
No,
sense.
but it's a possibility that I haven't
Yeah,
considered. To
exactly.
be honest, I've always thought of we are stuck here.
No,
I don't. That's what I thought. I mean, I don't know that for sure. I just thought
I don't
my
know.
mind never even considered what if we are, what if the people, again, I say 100 billion, but 150 billion, but I mean, there should be trillions of lives. That there should be trillions of people on this planet because people, if we're reincarnating and we're on this planet, then that's where we would be. But if we're going to other dimensions, other planes of existence, other planes, other worlds,
That
I mean, other universes, like there could be hundreds and hundreds of trillion upon themselves, like multiplied by themselves. Who knows?
right.
It's actually kind of small-minded, the perspective that I had before. Now that I
But
think about it,
also, you reincarnate here. So maybe there's 100 trillion people who have lived, but maybe you were a million of those people, and those other, you
and
know,
if time is if time is, we think about
right,
time being
right.
relative, then that is a whole concept I have. You have just opened my mind to no whole new concept. That's
Good.
awesome. That is awesome.
I'm
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Think
So
about that, and maybe you'll
okay.
remember your past life.
I'm gonna stay with this one for myself outside of this conversation. Thank you for that.
Okay,
That was a gift. I appreciate that.
sure. It
Um,
just makes
my
sense to me. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So the next thing, because the next thing I want to kind of explore here was, we talked about past lives, which is pretty interesting. Multiple dimensions, multiple realities and perception, and how we talked about Donald Hoffman's idea of perception and
Right.
how there's a bit of a conflict with how we perceive that conversation. We'll come back to that maybe another conversation.
All right.
Me doing a little bit more research, but also I'm curious as to what you think about the abduction phenomena itself. If there's a belief that when people are abducted, they're not taken physically. Sometimes they're taken possibly to another dimension. There was a man who claimed that he worked on these craft, and this has been talked about in ufology before, time dilation, that when he's
Yeah.
in the craft, that inside the craft he experienced time in a very normal sense, but when he came out of the craft, the people outside said he was gone for hours, and they were
Right.
concerned for him. Jacques Vallée mentioned an example of a woman who said there was a craft above her house and it was about the size of the home, but when she was inside it looked like it was the size of a football field,
Right.
which was like, wait a minute, how is that even possible? And Jacques Vallée said, why are we not thinking about this? Why are we not thinking, wait a minute, the craft was the size of our house. That's not a football field. So that means
Right.
that there's some kind of a distortion within the craft of dimensions. Maybe they're going into another dimension. Who knows? What do you think is
There's
happening?
time and space dilations that seem to happen. I mean, that's how sophisticated the phenomena or these beings are. They, if you read, you don't have a copy of my book, do you? I should send you
I
one.
literally ordered during our conversation. I ordered it because I was like, no, I gotta find out more. You are intelligent, man. This is really good.
I thought
You're
about
very
this.
philosophical.
I'm obsessed with this ever since my abduction that I had. That's in chapter 7 of this book. This is
I'm
a
gonna get in
collection
trouble
of
for buying that book. Yeah, this is gonna be
no.
awesome. I'm really excited.
This is a collection of essays. This is just not my book. I have
Right.
like essays by 10 other people: Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber. I have an unpublished essay, previous unpublished, by John Mack. I have Daryl Anka. I mean, I have a whole Grant Cameron's here, Carolyn Corey, Mary Rodwell. I have people I think are the best contributing to this making contact. But what I was going to say, in my abduction, I think it was an abduction. I was driving cross country with this girlfriend, and we pulled off the side of the road, and we're just driving for a long time. So we just sort of passed out, and we woke up in the same position we went to bed in. Like, I mean, I don't remember, how I fell asleep last night, but somehow there was sense that something in the regression, I figured out like we were taken out of this like time frame and something else happened. Then we put back in where they had taken us out. It's like, this strip of film, and we had this adventure or this experience, and they cut the film, took that strip out in our consciousness. It was like it
That's a
didn't
good analogy.
happen. So I call it a time mold, a time space mold that, and I heard what Bob Lazar talk about that, what he saw something like that at Area 51, where there was a candle burning in the room, and they put this like time freeze on it, and the candle stopped burning. It was still lit, but it just wasn't. I don't know. I don't know how to
I didn't
explain
know how
that.
to make sense of that. I didn't know how to make sense of that, by the way.
Time wasn't progressing. It was like, I don't understand it either, but this is what
Yeah.
the Bob Lazar said.
Yeah, I remember that. I just didn't know how to make sense of it. I was
I
like,
don't
what does
make
that
sense
even
of it
mean?
either, but there's like, they can manipulate time and space. So if Elizondo's worried about an invasion, it's already too late, pal. Because
Please. My interpretation of Elizondo is not Elizondo's words.
yeah.
I feel bad because I know that there's been a lot of heat he's taken for the
I think
threat
he's a great
narrative.
guy. I know
Yeah.
he's trying to do the best he can, but what were you going
Yeah,
to say?
I think so too. Yeah, I just don't want my perception of his words to be the takeaway from any of this conversation.
No.
So yeah, just
I just think he's still only saying what he's allowed to say, and he's
yeah.
saying a lot more than probably anyone else has ever said on the subject. Maybe Gary Nolan knows a little bit, but he is really, he would always say, just a little sideline about, I don't know him at all, but he always say he swore an oath to this country,
Right.
which,
He's
and
a
I would
patriot.
talk to him about this, what are you going to say?
He's a patriot. He's a patriot.
He's a patriot, but when you swear an oath and you're in the military, you do probably things that are maybe not so nice, and you swear an oath because you're protecting the people. But I think there's a lot of stuff he makes maybe excuses for what he had to do, and I think he's probably suffered or maybe regretted. I don't know him, so I don't know, but when you swear an oath to the country, I thought, or maybe I didn't say, but I would like to say, okay, what about the oath to the people to tell the truth about what you really know? And his excuse was, well, I swore an oath to my country, but we are the country. And so there's a little, so I just think,
let me in his defense. Let me offer a
please.
defense. Let me offer of a defense for
I
that
mean, I
because
like the guy. I think he's fantastic and has done more for this movement than anyone else ever.
I think,
Yeah.
but to your point, I think that you believe, and many people believe, that he should just tell us, because if
Yeah.
your oath isn't just to the country, it's to the world. You are a human being in this
Exactly.
on this planet.
Exactly.
I think I understand what you're saying. I think that the way that I have perceived his hesitance to just spill the beans is that there is a danger to the process of disclosure. People
Yeah.
already have a problem of accepting what he's already said. Imagine if it were a threat per se, even to those who would perceive. If you could perceive anything as a threat, a lion eating your intestines like top ramen noodles is a threat.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's evil, but it's a problem. If he were to tell you, "Hey, there's a lion. This phenomena is like the lion eating your intestines like top ramen noodles," people would not only resist, they'd hate him. And I mean,
But
look
I
what
don't think that's why he's not telling us. I think he's
I don't think I'm
I
only
think he
making a
has
partial
to.
effect.
No, but what I
There is
think
a
is
process.
he's working with the
Yeah.
military. He needs to not get in trouble. He needs to, play both sides, and I think he's doing it really well because he's very smart.
Well, look
And
what David Rush did, doing things in the right way, and there was a hit piece out on him because of it.
exactly.
Elizondo, I think that he has to be careful about what he says when, because if they tarnish his character as an American patriot, then they can tarnish everything that he says afterwards. So from now on, if he releases the information, he's going to be a traitor. Edward Snowden is still not seen as a hero. He's seen as a traitor. So if
No,
he
but
did were to
I
would have pulled
know
an Edward
that he's the
Snowden,
patriot. I know Elizondo really gave
you
his
do, but the
life
community
for
is
the
against him.
country from what he says in this book and from what he said and the kind of, you know, warrior that he is. But,
Right.
so I'm not expecting him to come forward and spill the beans of what he really knows because he is trying to be diplomatic and he's trying to, you know, uh,
I think hold on. I think more important than being diplomatic, I think that his telling too much could hurt the process of disclosure, not just to those who believe, but to those who do not.
no,
I
I
think that
agree.
when my
And
yeah,
you might
that's
be
where I think it's
you might be totally right about that. You might be, but the other thing is, there have been people who've been threatened. Grush was threatened. Hi, Coley, and
yeah.
but I want to know. Okay, don't tell us everything you know, but tell us who's threatening you. Why doesn't any of these people come forward? And maybe they told congressional leaders who's these parties threatening you because you've come forward with information. Why don't we hear
You ever
those
hear of
names?
have you ever heard of assault victim stories? How there's this one crime show I watched where this girl, she was assaulted by by a very powerful person, and he was very loved and well liked by many people, and ultimately she went to the police to tell them, hey, like, this happened to me, he did this, whatever, and they literally laughed her out of the police station. She went home to, and was crying about this. She just recovered. She's literally just coming out of this situation, this assault. By the way, she went with this person, this powerful person, to be, she thought there was going to be a good relationship with him. She thought there was going to be a good time. She thought she was willing to have a good time, but it turned very bad very quickly. And that assault happened, and then she went to the police afterwards. So now there's precedent for her being willing. Now she went to this person, she was willing. They made fun of her at the police station because this person was well known at the police station. And then when she went home to kind of, to deal with this trauma that she'd experienced, she was essentially harassed by the police for months,
Right.
harassed by them, and no one believed her. No one. As a matter of fact, her relatives were mad at her for even saying anything, because her saying something now made him look bad, and he's well liked and loved by the community. Now I'm not saying I was you get what I'm saying, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea of power, the idea that there are people in power that have so much power and prestige that if you try to go against them, you will be hated, not by just by the people that don't that
Yeah,
the community has already eaten him
yeah,
alive.
but why? What is really? It really comes down to this one question for you and
Yeah.
Coley and everyone else. What's the big secret? Okay, there are aliens here. We know that. Okay, we have that technology. All right, maybe they're manipulating people's minds and bodies and consciousness. But what is the real? I mean, yeah, we know this. It's out in the open. But what is? And this is what I don't think anyone, and maybe those people threatening Elizondo and Grush know. What's
What
the
if the
big
people
secret?
Well,
What is?
here's the deal, my friend. Here's the
It's
deal.
not
This is
aliens.
I got to talk to you. One of these, we should talk off camera, and we'll
Okay,
talk about
okay.
some, things. But I will say this: what if, this has been mentioned by people publicly, that could be, they could be walking among us. They could be in positions of power. If you think that they've got power and technology and their hybridization programs and all that stuff, why not infiltrate this civilization with people that look just like us in
Right.
positions of power? And if they are in positions of power and they do not want this, do you think that they couldn't land a UFO on the White House lawn? Why don't they? They do not want to be seen. They clearly want to keep their presence hidden, just enough for a few people all over the world here and there that there's plausible deniability, but not enough that we can say, hey, everyone, there's someone here and this is what they want to do. They're hiding for some reason. And if they don't want to be seen, what happens if we tell everyone this is exactly what's going on? This is who's involved. These are the hybrids. These are the ones working in power. And they said, well, listen, I told you. There was a person that said, there was a person, I think Peter Levenda recently said in an interview, his recent interview, where he said, forgive me for paraphrasing, imagine someone has total dominance over you and they give
Right.
you a phone call and they say, hey, listen, I'm watching you. You better not say a word, because if you do, I won't kill you. I'll kill your whole family and I'll kill you. I just want to let you know I'm still watching. And they just hang up. And every now and then they give you a phone call. Hey, I'm still watching you. I saw what you said on TV yesterday. Don't forget. And if you tell everyone before there's
Very.
at least some grand plan among other people that, hey, listen, we're going to tell you, we're going to be in trouble if we tell you, but at least now we've got a plan. If you tell them before that plan is even implemented, not only are they screwed, we're all screwed. I think that I think
I
that
think
that
that's what's
that
happening.
I'm just
I mean,
saying it's
maybe it
possible.
is. I don't know. I think it may be that drastic, but I think there's a little bit of leeway because people like Elizondo, who I really do think is a great guy. I think he's just really in a difficult position to say what he really knows. And I think Grush seems pretty honest. So, but
Why are they
I
so why do they think it's so important to tell people at all? You think
well,
the secret is
because
that we're
there's
not
the
alone?
truth. Because
What's the
I
truth?
think it's important to tell people what the truth is. And
No,
I think there's
why do you think they feel like they need to tell people?
well, because I think there seems to be a cracking in the fabric of those that are in control. I mean, I don't know this, but for 80 years since Roswell, let's say, or before, they've covered up the secret. And now that legacy that's been inherent in generation after generation is facing a new time. And I also think, and this is what Eric Davis says, nothing happens without the okay of the phenomena. I don't know
That
if
is
that's true,
exactly no,
but
that
I
is
think the
exactly what I think.
phenomena is at odds with itself now. And I think there's a split, and some of them are saying, okay, it's time to let the light into these poor humans who are deluded by their own
Yeah.
ignorance. And the other part is saying, no, we want to stay in control and have power over them. So I think there's a
No,
clash,
that's
which is
yeah.
represented by or symbolic of Congress saying to the Pentagon, tell us what you know. I mean, the Schumer Amendment, the what do they call it, the UAP Disclosure Act,
Yeah.
is that manifestation of that confrontation between the congressional leaders who are on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, versus the Pentagon, who says, no, we are keeping these secrets for ourselves. And not only that, but if you look at some of the people who leave the Pentagon and go to private industry, they are making a fortune of money based on what they learned. This is my understanding. It may not be true, but they seem to be making a fortune of money based on what they learned in the military, and perhaps giving those secrets to private industry. And those secrets belong to the American people, if there is such a thing. So
Have you listened to Jim
yeah,
Semivan?
I like Jim Semivan. I do. I've talked to him
I think
on
you
the
need to
phone.
watch his latest. You should watch his latest interview.
Where? Which show?
I'll send it to you. I think it was Engaging the Phenomena, and I will
I
send
think
it
I
to
did
you.
see some of that by what's his name? James
Yeah,
El
James. I don't remember
yeah,
Jim's last name, but James is a really nice guy.
James,
Very nice guy.
yeah, he's a really great guy. I met him, but I do think Jim Semivan is sincere. I think,
Yeah, I think you
I
should.
think,
But I think you know what he. Yeah, I
and
think
what he said.
so.
Tell me
Yeah,
what he said that you're referring to, because I did see most of that interview.
I think that Jim Semivan who, by the way, thinks that Tom DeLonge is doing a good job. Just want to throw that out there.
Well, I
Real
don't know
whack
about
guy.
that.
Well, I don't think he. I think he. Let me rephrase that. Jim Semivan
Yeah.
has given kudos to Tom for his work, not necessarily that he's all doing everything perfectly fine.
I don't really
He
know
just said
much
that Tom
about
DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
I know he walked off the Joe
So
Rogan show, but yeah. Go ahead.
yeah.
What is
So there was a lot to that. So I think personally, from what I
yeah,
understand about what Jim Semivan talks about, from what I understand, I think that the fine line is because of the phenomena, not because of
yeah,
us. I think that people in the UFO community are like, we're bad. Humans are the reason why. We're the ones obfuscating. I think that we need to really consider, why would they not just tell us, hey, there's aliens out there? Who cares?
right.
That's cool. What else is out there? They're searching for microbial life on Mars. Why do you think there's water now on there's a reservoir of water underneath Mars, whatever. These are things that are like, eventually they will become common knowledge anyway. Why is it that the phenomena is such a thing that people are willing to, as has been claimed by history, they would kill for this to keep this
Yeah.
secret? I think
I
that the
don't
phenomena is in control. I think that
I
people like
agree with you. I do agree.
I think that they have, this is a metaphor, not a literal. I think they've got a gun to our head, some of us, in power. Don't you dare say a word. We're not ready yet. And we will reveal ourselves when we want to, not when you want to. And I think when you ask why Lou Elizondo won't just spill the beans, why won't David Grush? He was in front of Congress. He had the whole world's attention. He could have literally been like, guys, they're here. He could have done it all. Instead, he's doing the whole bureaucratic thing. He's doing the process, and he's doing it legally, and he's doing it by the book to the T. They're not pulling punches here. Yet, the inspector, the intelligence community's inspector general, said that this claim is urgent and credible. What is urgent and credible about there being life out there? I
Right.
don't
Well,
think they're paying attention to
you know
these.
what? I agree with you. You're right. I mean, I feel that's true. It's up to the phenomena. But what seems to also be happening is that sightings are increasing worldwide. Experiences seem to be increasing. I talked to a Chinese ufologist. This woman, what's her name? She had to leave China because
Mm.
they wanted to suppress some of that. But more and more people in China are having experience, according to this one. But more and more people here, more and more people around the world are seeing ships, and there seems to be this influx of activity
Does seem
that
like that.
maybe the phenomena does have it all planned out. And I don't think it's an invasion, and maybe it is, but maybe it's an awakening. And all this talk that we're having, that thousands of other podcasters and people are having, is to prepare people for the conversation of not what if, but it's here, now what?
What now?
So
I think what now?
yeah,
Now what?
yeah,
Yeah.
what
Now what
now?
if? Now what?
Exactly. But we have to be prepared. That's why the subtitle of my book is Preparing for the New
Yeah.
Realities of It. And the preparation is first knowing that this is out there, that it's real, that people are having experience. Just knowing that is more of a preparation than just being, oh my God, how did that happen? No. So this show that you're doing, my shows that I'm doing, and all the people talking about it, Elizondo's book, which is like on the #1 bestseller list. I don't know if it's #1, but it is on the bestseller list. The New York Times
Already. It
just
hasn't even come out yet.
it has come out, and it's already a bestseller
Yeah.
because so many people have ordered it. I haven't ordered. I actually would love to. I think in Washington he's doing a live book signing
He
there.
is
But
on the
I,
well, the book signing is after the interview with Kolhar on the
oh, is
23rd.
it
Thank you, Paulie. Yeah, the book signing is afterwards, or he's going to do a whole tour, a book tour, I guess. This is what
right?
grapevine. I don't.
I'd love to meet him because I would say he's a hero because he
I
did
agree.
risk everything to come forward and say what? How come, like he says, he didn't know anything about UFOs. He's taken into this program and he goes, what? This is real? How could this be possible? He was an inside intelligence officer. He didn't hear anything about it. And suddenly he hears this whole other level of existence and so I did think he did the right thing, of course, by quitting ATIP and becoming part of To the Stars Academy and then breaking out on his own with Chris Mellon. But there is a lot more he knows that I'm sure he isn't saying, but it may be
You
in
need
due.
you need to watch that Jim Semivan interview again.
I will.
You need to watch
'Cause I really
it.
do think, I think you're onto something, that the phenomena is controlling the military, and that is so bizarre to even consider. Like, how are they even communicating with these people in the military to tell them
So
what to say?
can I give you another
Yeah,
science fiction reference that I
sure,
thought was
sure.
pretty interesting? In the TV show Three Body Problem, there is an alien race coming to Earth, and it's observing us with this sphere, this eye that has a very special kind of technology. I'll get into that right now, but ultimately it's communicating with a religious leader, who essentially it brings a group of people that are like almost like a cult with him to carry out the will of this intelligence, and it's communicating him with him through a very old microphone. You know those old mic, like you go to school and they say the announcer speaks on that little microphone thing. It's talking to him through that thing,
Mm.
and and it's telling him essentially, you can't say anything, you can't say a word, you cannot say a word, don't say anything. Now this is a ridiculous analogy using science fiction as a reference here, but the idea is, who knows, dreams, psychic connection, conjuring, rituals, I don't know, but I think that all these things could be possible. Now, if any of the things that we mentioned in the first part of this conversation are true, a second part where we talked about the Collins elite and these people that are summoning these beings, and we think of them as bad, but they could just be beings that we don't understand. Whatever. If that's true, and they are in control, and they are communicating with certain people within power, positions of power on our planet, or they are. And think about the idea that they could remove your consciousness. This has been said in ufology. They could remove your consciousness and then implant their own consciousness and then carry out things as you, or
That
create a hybrid, or add in again all the different lore that's possible. If they're in control of this, which I think they are in some way, one way or another, then the reason why they don't say anything is I don't think it's because of bureaucracy. I think it's because that they have to. Um, I think I think that the fear is, I mean, who cares if what if they can come into your bedroom and terrify you into psychosis? You're a
Well, they
psychopath.
have done that to people. They have.
Now you think that Lou wouldn't be walking that tightrope if that's the case? If the fear is that they can come after him, not just to David Grush mentioned something that was very mysterious, almost as if to say the phenomena paid him and his wife a visit. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
I did. I don't know this specific because I try to listen to everything Grush says, everything Elizondo says, everything Semivan says, everything Hal Puthoff said. These are the insiders, Jacques Vallée. Um, so they know a lot more
Right.
than anyone else. But
Yeah, they
this,
have a pretty grim outlook. I don't
but
know,
it
man.
seems like what is happening to Grush and Elizondo is not the phenomena threatening them; it's other people inside the military
Who
that may
could
be getting
be who could be
what
working with the phenomena?
who might be telling them. But it seems like there might be power and money involved, not just the phenomena. Like, there is private industry that has gotten crash retrieval
Yeah.
elements from the government that, like, I feel, and I talked to Danny Sheehan about that, belong to the American people. And this private industry are making a fortune off of, inventions and patents that they got from material that belongs to the U.S. government. I think.
Mm.
I mean, from what I put together, and that seems a
So
little shady, and
yeah,
that maybe who's threatening some of this. But yeah, I don't know. It might be just be the fossil fuel company, because obviously my favorite line is, these craft are not filling up their gas tank to get here, so they do
right.
have a unlimited amount of energy, which Hal Puthoff described to me as, they move the space in front of them. That's how they travel. It's not like there's propulsion. They're actually moving the space in front of them. I have a great interview with Hal Puthoff that I did years before I even knew he was into. But anyway, so there's technology, there's industry, there's fossil fuel,
Well,
there's
there's
billions of
something else.
dollars.
There's
Yeah,
something else.
tell me.
So, do you remember? There's so much out there. I understand. I don't know why. I
No,
apologize.
tell me.
There was a suggestion, and Elizondo suggested this. Tom DeLonge suggested this. Peter Levenda suggested this. Others have suggested this. What if telling the American people is telling the enemy, right? What if telling the, hey, everyone, we have
Who's
crashed
the
Patrol
enemy?
Craft. That's
Who
the
is?
question. That's the question. It's
Uh,
this has been explicitly suggested.
okay.
This is kind of an oxymoron. Explicit suggestion. You understand?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
has
yeah.
been said and suggested, and I'm not going to be verbatim again. I'm paraphrasing,
No, but who
but
would be the enemy? It's not the Russians or Chinese.
it's not.
So who is the
That's
enemy? You think?
if
Yes.
I think that the enemy is a non-human intelligence, and
Another way.
another whatever one aspect of, not all of it, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever aspect they're hiding, I think that there is an aspect of this that they know is not our friend. There is an element that they know they cannot just tell people. You tell everyone, you tell the world, hey, this is what it is, this is how it works, and this is what we know. Now the enemy knows that you know that this is how they work, and now they can create a new contingency plan.
Well, the
If you
enemy
say, hey,
already knows. I mean, Linda Moulton Howe says, and she was told this by a government insiders, there's 3 competing extraterrestrial races in control of the Earth. I mean, she keeps saying this over and over.
she says a
You
lot of
know,
things, yeah.
and,
Yeah,
and that could be the good guys are looking out for us. The guys that want it for themselves or don't could be that enemy, and there could be a neutral just here for their own resources. So yeah, we are kept in the dark. We
about all.
and what if someone like Alessandro Grush comes forward and says, "Guess what? There's some guys that like. There's some entities that like us, some that don't." I mean, supposedly Reagan was told this. I mean, if you look at there's a
Yeah.
show
There where
Linda
he was
did
crying about it, and he
by
said,
no by the CIA. I don't know if he was crying about it, but he was a
no,
private
not
brief.
Reagan. I'm sorry, it wasn't Reagan. It was
Eisenhower. No, who?
Eisenhower. It was he had his head in his hands in his head, and he said, "This is the world my daughters have to grow up in." And
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know if that's true, but it might be
I don't know.
because
I don't know. Yeah, I don't
we
know.
don't
That
know
one's a little.
anything. But
Yeah.
I think we're getting closer than ever. I think like Grant Cam would say, the ball is being moved down the field towards the goalpost, and we're
Mm.
getting. Some people say we're not making any progress. I think we're making huge
Oh, we are.
amount of progress,
I
and
agree.
we're getting closer to the truth. And just the level of conversation we've had here tonight
Mm.
shows that
I
this
look.
stuff is out, right?
I hope we
Out.
have another conversation, man. This is we haven't even we haven't even
Yeah,
touched the surface of like
I wanted to talk to you about. You started off with abductions, and we got off somewhere, but the
I don't know.
abduction thing is big. It's big, and I forgot what you said about it, but I think it's happening on this physical level, but it's also happening. See, I think what we're calling the physical body is much more multidimensional than
Mm,
just what we are seeing and feeling here. So in my experience, it felt like there was a sort of out of body element, but it was also very physical because I had a mark on the back of my leg after that experience. And
mm,
so, and I don't even remember the whole thing, but when I was regressed, if I wasn't making up, because am suspect of regressions because your mind, even past life regressions or even, abduction regression, because it was not as scary as I thought it would be, even though I was traumatized and didn't remember what had happened when I went back to that place. And I didn't go deep enough, but what I did remember was, just these creatures there, and they seem more like big birds almost than
and
alien
how?
looking grays. I don't know. So
Mm.
this is my memory. Maybe that's a screen memory. I don't know. You know, I was regressed because I had met Jim Pennison. You know Jim Pennison?
I don't know who that is. No.
He's part of the Rendlesham Forest UFO encounter. You know Rendlesham
No.
Forest,
I
19.
do know the incident, but I don't remember that name. I'm sorry.
Jim
Uh,
Pennison and John Burroughs actually
John
exposed.
Burroughs, Jim Pennison. Hold on, I don't remember
Yeah,
that name.
in the Rendlesham Forest incident, December 1980. They were the witnesses to it's
Yeah.
the at that joint base between the British and the
Okay.
U.S.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yep. I remember. I remember. That name I did not ring a bell, but thank you for
Tennyson's the one who got the zeros and ones psychic
yeah.
codes in his mind.
And he
Who
wrote them down, and yeah.
anyway, I met Tennyson, and he said ever since that night, 1980, and I met him at the citizens' hearings for UFO disclosure. I think that was 2014. He said ever
Hmm.
since 1980, he had to take a sedative to go to sleep because he was so traumatized by what had happened.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I don't want to be that traumatized by whatever happened to me. So that's why I did the regression and got a glimpse of what may have happened. But they're not living or functioning in our reality. Like right now, we're in this reality. It's a human, and we're having this conversation full of emotion. These beings, and from my observation, do not exist in the same reality. When you're confronted by these beings, your field is distorted.
Hmm.
You are shifted. You are. It's like you're high, or reality just starts to, you know, bifurcate in weird ways. So their presence distort because their field of consciousness this is my theory, so different than our field of consciousness. To be in their presence is a distortion. It's like trying to get AM on or Wi-Fi on an AM radio. It's such a different frequency. We have the capacity if we're trained, and I think part of the contact experience is facilitating an upgrade in the exchange of consciousness frequencies to meet them on another level, but they're not coming down to our level. It's like I say, when you're talking to your dog, you don't bark at them, you talk to them. And so they're trying to communicate with us like that show that you mentioned, Arrival, at a level that they exist on, and we need to upgrade our capacity to understand or conscious or cognize. My theory, our level of cognition has to be amplified
Hmm.
to make known the unknown, to meet something totally outside of our sphere. And this is what Bashar said at a lecture that he did in Las Vegas that I thought was one of his most important ones. He said the level of fear that happens when you're confronting these beings is because their field is so different than yours. You think you're dying or something like that because it's such a distortion. So we need to be trained in not just in altered states of awareness with like drugs or anything, but we need to be more lucid dreamers. That's one of the reasons I think Whitley is such an amazing contactee, because he has a practice of lucid awareness that he's been doing for 50 years, the Gurdjieff stuff that I think has made him one of the most um, mm, the person who's remembered some maybe more of their experiences than any others. I think there are probably
Well,
others out there.
I think a lot of it's he's actively engaging the phenomena.
That's
No
right.
pun intended,
No,
but
he is.
yeah, yeah. So listen,
So
I
yes.
apologize for hijacking this conversation.
Oh no, don't apologize. This is a dialogue. I'm you're it's two way. I mean, I'm an interviewer too, so I've always liked. No, it's just like I like it being back and forth. It's not like you're asking me questions like I know because I don't know, or we're just throwing out things because we want to understand together, me and you, some of what's really going on.
Yeah.
And maybe you've helped me and maybe I've helped you, but
Oh,
it's
you have definitely opened my mind. There's a couple moments where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta do more research. I have to open my. I have to. There's a new perspective I
well,
have
you've
now
helped
that I have to
me.
consider."
No, this is what dialogue is about. It's an exchange of information, and like we don't have the answer, so we're in a free flow form where we can keep the conversation going as exploration of possibilities, right?
Yeah. Well, I just want to
Thank
say,
you.
I've spent my time many years before being on live, looking at people like you and watching and listening to your work. And I will tell you, and then seeing you, by the way, seeing you in places with other people, like, oh, this guy is like, it is a it is beyond a pleasure to be in your presence, even digitally. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having this conversation with me, entertaining me, and my ridiculous, pontifications.
No,
You
no,
are a
there's nothing ridiculous about anything you said. So don't judge yourself. I mean, I'm not judging you, and I'm grateful for your research, so we can have a conversation where we can explore this unknown field. Because yeah, maybe Alessandro knows more, or Semi Van, but this is a vast area where it is so big. Once the revelation happens, once it starts, human civilization is in a whole new playing field. And this, to end on a positive note, may be what we're being prepared for, not an annihilation or a threat, but a civilization, like Whitley says, a new world if we can take it. Right? You know that quote from.
I do know that quote. I've talked to
Oh
Michael Carter, and he has a book as well.
yeah, I like
You
Michael. I
know,
haven't seen him
yeah,
in a while.
Michael. I love Michael. He's all over the net. So he's still doing interviews. He just recently published one the other day. He's a great person, and he's
Yeah,
definitely counseled me personally. He's counseled me like literally like a teacher, like a mentor.
yeah.
Because he knows I tend to go to the dark. I go too dark sometimes. He's like, bring it back, brother.
Well,
So
I
I
don't
appreciate
think
you.
it's
You're
dark.
kind of doing,
It's because there's still hope. There's still possibility. I mean, you could be depressed, not you, but or you could
I'm
be
far from depressed, but yeah,
hopeful that
yeah.
there's something possibly amazing that's taking place right as we speak, an historic moment that's shifting reality that hasn't been anything like it in human civilization. That's my hope. I mean, we'll see.
Well, I hope you're right. I don't like my my
I
fears
like
and
it. It's just how your perspective. I mean, but you can
I
change that.
genuinely
Yeah.
I genuinely hope I am a slave to my I don't want to say intelligence, but my way of thinking. And I am very much subject to that. I kind of have an obsession with information and learning and knowledge. And I think that the problem is, the way that I have interpreted the information that I've come across, not so great. I hope that I would prefer that I was wrong. I would prefer that what I've learned in my interpretation of that information is wrong.
Well,
Uh,
not wrong.
yeah,
It's just see it as an interpretation, and you know, it's one interpretation of what you've seen, but you can also shift your reality and give it another interpretation. You don't have to be attached to an interpretation. It's just one
yeah.
possibility. But I do have to say, next time I hope Coley can join us a little more. I'm sorry.
She's in a very, she has tornadoes and stuff where she's from, so
Oh,
she
okay.
tends to have a lot of technical issues. I haven't heard anything from her, which is not scary, but I'm a little worried. I'll text her and make sure she's okay. It happens all the time. I got to get her a new. I think I need to chat. If you love us, hit us up on the GoFundMe so that we can get Coley a new computer because she needs some tech, guys. She needs some tech.
But
But
all I want to say to
listen,
you, Mark, is it's like your interpretation is fine. Just don't believe it. It's just like,
okay.
I mean, I don't
I don't
believe.
know. I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know
know
about
either. I say a
I don't
lot
know.
of things, and everyone in this field says things, and who's to say who's right? At this point, we are just taking baby steps into the unknown phenomena that's that has haunted this planet for probably thousands of years. But I think something is different, maybe for human beings now that we're becoming possibly a little more aware of this interface and not calling it religion or miracles
Right.
or
Right.
fantasies or demons, or it's like, let's take a
The
more
labels.
realistic labels. Right. It's a phenomena. It's happening, and it's unfolding, and you could be excited or worried. I don't know.
I don't want to be
Einstein,
I don't want to be too ambiguous, but I also don't want to be too specific or religious about it.
right,
I like
right.
that you have this balanced perspective, and I actually really appreciate and respect it because for me, I don't like when people fully agree with me, and I don't like when people are religious about the opposite perspective. and you have this medium. You're right
Right.
there where you're like, who knows?
And
Let's see
I don't
together.
like when people say this is what's going on. That's was my problem with Greer personally. I mean, he's
That's
probably
why.
a
That's
great,
mine. Yeah, yeah.
but
I
this
don't
is
think
what's
Chris a
going
great.
on, guys. And I don't think that maybe as a little piece. I mean, the
Yeah,
CE5s are good. The
yeah.
the disclosure thing he started was great, but
Big deal. Big deal.
but
Yeah, the Disclosure
but we're
Project.
maturing.
Yeah.
I think when you listen to Jim Semivan, from what I've heard him say, is like he doesn't know what happened to him. He doesn't know what go. He went to the CIA. They probably didn't tell him everything, but he's, he was a big shot, and he doesn't know what's going on here, and I don't know if Lou knows it all, and he's just not saying, or he just doesn't know it all. But there are people. I think Grush said. You remember hearing this from Grush? He said there's about 50 people who know everything about the phenomenon. And did you hear him say that? I
I don't
mean,
remember. I don't remember that. I
he,
mean,
he didn't say that on camera. He said that at that New York closed party where he told insiders last January,
the one that
and
was
then
leaked
someone
in the
repeated
footage.
that. Yeah, right.
Okay,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah. I don't
So,
remember him saying that specifically, but I know the meeting. I remember that being leaked or whatever. They leaked
right,
him talking at that place. Yeah,
right.
yeah, with the
So,
investors and stuff like that.
yeah, right. So, I just think it's a really fantastic mystery that keeps becoming more and more mysterious as we get closer to uncovering. So let's keep having these conversations, okay?
I really look forward. We are 20 minutes past. I'm so
Okay,
sorry. Thank you
that's
so
okay.
much for giving
Hey,
me all the time you did. I look forward to another conversation with you, Alan. Please, please stay in
thanks.
touch, my friend.
Yes,
All right, Alan. Tell everybody where they
and
can find you before you leave, and then and when I'm gonna put
right,
your book in the comments in the description of the video here.
right.
So
So my book, Making Contact, you can get that on Amazon. I have a YouTube channel called New Realities. You can subscribe there. I actually talk to lots of abductees, contactees. I also talk to people looking into the future, remote viewers. I sometimes deal with health and healing programs. Psychic phenomena, all that stuff. It's whatever the new realities are. And then my website, newrealities.com, which needs to be more developed. But just my book and my YouTube, and I'm on Instagram, and tune in sometimes to one of my shows. I try to do a live show at least once a week. So thank you. Where can I see this show?
we are on a couple of platforms, but mainly the YouTube channel Dimensions of Reality podcast. That is my personal YouTube channel. I've had it for years. And then, of course, on Facebook, we are the Coley and Marquise Talk Show on Facebook. So that's where but I've been following you. So I mean, I see you sporadically throughout history. Like you're an icon, man. You're an icon in the field. So I
I
can't
go
believe
to
I'm having this.
come to Contact in the Desert. I usually am an MC there, and I host some panels there. There's lots of other MCs, but I love Contact in the Desert because there's people like you and me coming together to have these types of conversations for hours. I mean, we've done it for hours,
Oh, I
but
would have so much fun. Yeah, so much
you
fun.
would have so much fun. Come to Contact, because that's the best gathering of this community of really informed people. I met the guy from the Good Trouble show there recently.
Yeah. Matt,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
Matt
saw him
Ford.
there, and just lots of people. Russell Targ was there, and George Knapp was there, another incredible investigator.
I
There's
would
good.
throw up with excitement. I'd be so excited. I'd be throwing up on. Oh,
Well,
I'm
don't
so
throw up,
sorry.
but Richard Dolan is there, Linda Moulton. There's
Oh
really
man.
the superstars of our league there. So,
Yeah.
all right.
I
So,
gotta
hope
go.
to see you.
I gotta go.
Yeah, go next,
Alan,
probably next June. Thanks,
love
Marquise.
you, brother. It's been a
Thank
pleasure,
you.
man.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you. See you.
Peace. Guys, that was milestone in my life, guys. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Me and Coley will see you on the next episode. Sorry for the technical issues, and thank you for being there for us and supporting us. And we love you guys. Till next time. Peace.
Keith and Coley, they're ready to go. Talking about aliens, UFOs, and the unknown. Show, where we uncover the secrets that nobody knows. From aliens to UFOs, we're ready to explore. Strap in.